Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 263. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, alongside Johnny V. We are here for more sweet action for, I don't know, the 263rd time.
Yeah, at least, yeah. There might be some that we just forgot to count.
There's some lost files out there somewhere.
Yeah, like the hidden levels or something.
Exactly. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Tonight's action is going to revolve a little bit around, well, quite a bit around, not only what we saw this last weekend taking place at the MVP Open over there at Maple Hill, but also some upcoming news and details with regards to the Pro Tour Championships. I believe something just dropped minutes ago. How cleverly timed.
Wow.
Who would have known? We will check in with Jeff Spring again. Now, there may be a Jeff Spring fan club out there, but don't get too comfortable. He's not going to join us every single week, but with all of the exciting changes and things that are going on right now, he's at the forefront of everyone's conversation and should be, because some pretty exciting things taking place on the Pro Tour.
Well, I think Dana got a little nervous about his position because he reached out to me and is like, "Can I be on tonight? Can I please be on tonight?" And I'm like, I guess maybe after our really good guest, Spring.
So what we're going to have in it's actually relatively fresh, so we don't even have the title updated just yet on YouTube, but we're going to have Jeff here in just a few moments. After we conclude with him, we will bring Dana on for a little bit, and then after that, coming in from Nantucket, the island in Nantucket, we're going to have Big Germ, and he's got some insights as well that are going to kind of tie everything together that we've seen tonight.
Certainly will.
He can do it, put his back into it, or not.
There's something else he could put into it according to the song, but let's hope not.
All right.
Actually, he can't. He literally has a problem down there.
I don't want to get into that. All right. Without further ado, let's bring in from our digital green room. Of course, that's the Disc Baron digital green room, Jeff Spring. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, guys.
You again.
Yeah, I'm back. Thanks for having me, Terry and Johnny.
Is somebody else running the Pro Tour?
Yeah.
What's that? No, that's not the announcement. No, that's
different
not,
hat
but,
this week, though. Different hat.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah. Big shout out to Bevelcraft Brewing. Big fan of those beers out in Bend, Oregon, and the owners of the company are okay as well.
Yeah, they are. And we'll speak of that real quickly. Nate, Val out there pulling some early morning duty this last week, and that is one thing I absolutely do not envy. They were up and commentating on golf by 6 a.m. their time.
Nate said his alarm was set for 4:45 because he got up and went to the brewery to get some things ready. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to get all worked up, warmed up, and to get some other things prepped and ready before the broadcast. Did the broadcast, and then at lunch, went back at one point, I think, to open and get everything ready there, and then came back and broadcasted another couple hours, and they were wiped by the end of the weekend, certainly, and they did a great job.
Yeah, I'm pretty. It's incredible to know how much goes into commentating, and know that they're running a business as well. So yeah, it's pretty impressive, and yeah, definitely love listening to them, and it was a great broadcast. Thanks to you guys as well.
Well, thank you. I didn't get a chance to digest a lot of it. Usually in our side of things, if you don't hear a lot of people yelling and screaming, it at least went okay.
I'm not. I don't want to besmirch anybody or shadow over. That's a better word. But I did hear a couple people this week say, "Oh my God, that was such a good live broadcast. I'm not even going to bother watching post-production." And I said, no, please go out and watch that. We want to support those guys too. But the action that we had, being able to split the cards and have Simon run and the guys on the lead card between Double G and Macbeth, like there was a lot of action. It was really, really an exciting weekend at the MVP Open. And I mean, we didn't have to do that so much for FPO because Paige kind of did the Paige thing, and but that MPO action was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a special place there. It churns out some really exciting tournaments and really exciting finishes, and this was one of the ones for the history books, I think. Didn't come down necessarily to the final hole, 18, but you saw some incredible putts that were huge down the stretch, not just from Paul, who made, obviously, that putt on 15,
15.
17. Those are ones I'm never gonna forget. I was standing right there watching, and I was just blown away by both of them. But Garrett on 14 was pretty incredible too. And yeah, the broadcast really, I think it translated because the fans out there were rabid. They were excited, but they were also respectful, and it was just a great atmosphere. What a cathedral of disc golf that is there at Maple Hill.
Well, and of course, our job is to do our best job is to bring that excitement and that atmosphere into your household. And with so many cheering fans, with such enthusiasm and excitement,
The 8 holes.
the 8 holes, and just everybody really getting into it, and then just sitting at the edge of your seat, as like we were just saying, Simon making that run and not knowing what could happen. Could he come off of this chase card, which we know doesn't happen all too often? And Simon, who, there's a new storyline with knowing that that's what Simon considers really his new home course, and he plays out there all the time, but we don't necessarily see him closing out big events all that often when he's put himself in that position. And then, I think a term that was used, McBee Slayers out there. All these guys have found a way to beat Paul recently, as you kind of pointed out, Jeff. But yet somehow he finds a way to
he just gets it done.
You brought up the two things that I think Nate Doss, contradicted me on. I went back and watched the live footage, and we were talking about McBee Slayers, and Nate was like, "Well, Paul has a great record against all the players, like all these guys." So,
True.
Paul has a great record against everybody.
Yeah.
There's not a player you can pick and go, oh, that guy's really got Paul's number.
No.
Maybe other than Ricky.
Right. And then he also said, I think he also said, he was like, yeah, I mean, Simon lives there, but he's not someone I would call a hometown hero.
Yeah. And
I mean, I guess maybe he's right, but like he does live there, and he's kind of embraced the course and the community. So it was cool to see him in the mix for sure.
Yeah. But it's not like, I mean, Simon's out on the tour more often than he's not almost. So yes, he does go out there and probably plays there more than any other, casual course, but it's not like he's out there every single day, and it's in his, his actual backyard or anything like that. But let's talk a little bit about that FPO side. I mean, is it all too obvious to just say, to summarize and say, well, Paige doing Paige things? I mean, just playing at the level that she does at one of her favorite places, picking up her 5th win there. Pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway there is how comfortable she is overall. I mean, seeing her on the course, being there on site, it was noticeable. She was super relaxed and happy. Didn't have a worry in the world. And I think when a player is playing at that level with that kind of confidence, it's hard to slow them down. And I think it's easy to say, oh, Paige is doing Paige things, but I think just carrying that real confidence over from the World Championship, having taken the week off. I mean, similar to what we saw from Paul, of course, there was, kind of some great performances that were pushing him. But yeah, Paige just coasted, for sure. So there was definitely an air about her. I don't know if that translated, to the folks at home who were watching live. I checked out the coverage, and you couldn't really tell the vibe as much, but she was certainly, she was certainly in the zone. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and say, after watching her so much over Worlds a few weeks ago and how she performed there, and then just everything that she's been doing in terms of having that confidence, the one hiccup she had, she airballed a putt. She called it out as soon as she did it too. I don't remember if it was hole 3 or not, but she had airballed a putt, and I thought her putt has been so dialed. And I thought, is this potential for unraveling or not? This is the first real putt she's missed, and she missed it badly. And sure enough, I think she made the very next putt coming back. And I was like, okay, that was just literally just a blip out of, the last 4 or 5 rounds for her in total, and she moved right back on where she was. So her confidence and that putt is just on another level right now for her. So pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Anything else on the MPO side as we talk? That wraps up FPO, and we saw Amanda Malwicki on MVP hold her own on that on the feature card the first day. She ultimately stumbled just a little bit as the weekend went on, but she held her own. That was great to see. Any other stories on the FPO side before we wrap up MPO as well?
Well, Sarah Hokum had a great finish, another
Yep.
MVP player, and thanks to MVP for sponsoring that event and really putting the support into it that it needs to succeed. Love all of our tour sponsors, and Sarah really just performed really well. I think she came in second, right?
Third, tied for second with Kristen Tatar.
Yeah. So, but the other thing is that now that the Tour Championship is one event away, I started looking down that list, and there were some big moves by people who are on the outside looking in, and there's still people like the two people that are still outside the top 32 on the men's side who had huge performances. One is Greg Barsby, who is going to most likely, with a good finish, jump into the top 32 and make the Tour Championship at GMC if he has a good performance. The other was Matt Bell. Matt finished, I think, around 20th, but he set himself up, and if he does well at GMC, he could jump in too. Of course, he just won the NT, so you think, well, how is it possible that Matt Bell has played every single Disc Golf Pro Tour event and he's still on the outside looking in? Just shows you the strength of the fields that we've been seeing this year and just the growth of the game, I think. So, and there's similar storylines on the FPO side. So, that's really, when we start looking at MVP, you can look down those standings and see some big performances further down the ranks now. And it feels a little bit like the FedEx Cup. You want to make that cut for the Tour Championship. And these last events are really important to get the points you need.
What is the cutoff for FPO? Is it 16? 8?
Yeah, actually, it was 15 until about a couple hours ago. So now it's 16.
Oh, that's fantastic. 16th place right now, Ellen Widboom. So, and she is registered for GMC. I'm just looking at the standings right now on UDisc Live. You can go to UDisc and just click on players, and there's an option under there for you to pick the standings for the Pro Tour, the National Tour, a lot of different things right now. So if you guys want to go up there and look at that, we have them to thank for that.
Yeah, and just to follow up your point on that, you just mentioned Ellen sitting in that 16th, Erica Stinchcomb, who is not registered for GMC, but then we see Hannah Macbeth and Charlotte Towell are both registered, so they'd be looking to make a move, but yet Jennifer Allen, Elaine King, Christina Linthicum, and Courtney Cannon Pixie not registered. So it's some people are still able to make some moves, and then Dion Carey right there, possibly trying to make some moves. So we'll see how things shuffle out with this last event coming up.
Yeah, I just checked myself, and yeah, it's gonna be fun to see how the standings shuffle and who can get into the Tour Championship. And we're excited to talk about some changes as well.
All right, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Pro Tour finale, the Tour Championship that has now, it was announced a few weeks ago that it was going to be in Emporia with Dynamic Discs as one of the main sponsors, but now, just as of a couple minutes ago, it dropped that I saw it's actually being moved over to Charlotte.
That's right. Yeah, and that's my main impetus for coming on. Thanks again for having me. But yeah, we took a long look at what was announced on July 24th for the Tour Championship that we were kind of inheriting, and we decided to have a discussion with Dynamic Discs and Jeremy Rusko, and it became clear through some of our internal communication methods with players that it was not going to work for a number of players to attend that event. Because of the date change. I think everyone across the board was really excited for Emporia. I mean, I've I know Emporia is one of the disc golf destinations that, not many places can rival. And I think, it's the one thing that's, a bummer is that we aren't going to Emporia this year, but like hopefully we will in the future. Hopefully the Pro Tour will be there soon, because Emporia is just a place that, makes tons of sense for the Pro Tour to go to because it's just so special. So this was really just about mostly the dates and then a little bit about where the rest of the players are, which is in the Southeast United States. And that's what was announced originally in the fall of 2018. And it's what, when we talked to players, all of them had planned their schedules around, the dates of October 17th through 20th in the Southeast. And as we talked to players one by one by one, and I talked to over 50 players individually in order to get this right. As we talked to them, it became clear that date still was on their calendar. It had been switched, but that not a lot of players had filled in the gap. And so, we were excited to, clear it with everybody and then return to Charlotte. And, a big part of that process was the Charlotte Disc Golf Club and their president, Jim Banbury, who, I've worked hand in hand with to get to this point and to get to this announcement. And, our first interest was in Charlotte because it's one of the meccas of disc golf. It's got over 100 courses. It's a big city in the U.S. It's easy to travel in and out of. It's got great weather this time of year. So the list goes on, but it was totally infeasible without the absolute, great work by the Charlotte Disc Golf Club, because it was incredible working with them. They worked efficiently. They worked at a fast pace, and they're just a club that's set up to deliver a great event. They've got like 536 members, active members. They were able to test the live stream, and make sure it looked great with us. Like they have technical members with technical backgrounds and working on news stations and familiar with the technology that we use. So it was a kind of a dream come true to get that kind of interest and buy-in there with the club. And can't thank them enough. So lots of details obviously now and to come, but we're excited to be able to make this initial announcement and kind of tell the world through Ultiworld that dropped a story, and then coming on here and talking to you fine fellows.
So what are the changes that are happening for the Pro Tour as far as the format goes? I mean, we've seen in the past, if I'm correct, it's been free to enter. That's not the case this year. Is that correct?
There's going to be, sorry, can you say that again? It's not free. So
correct.
Exactly. Yeah. There's going to be a $200 registration fee this year. We looked at that pretty hard, but we decided that in order to have the purse where we want it to be, the registration fee needs to be there. However, we are adding over $30,000 to the purse, which is a great thing to be able to do. We're confident in our partnerships and our fundraising ability to get there. And it's what the players deserve. So the overall purse is going to be $40,000, which is a new record high for the Tour Championship. And, we're really excited to, deliver on that amount of money for the players, to really have a true end of season, payout, bonus, celebration. Every player will get at least $250 just for showing up. And then the payouts will go up from there.
I was going to say, that sounds great. I'd love to hand somebody $200 just to get $250 back. Those sound like some good numbers to me.
That's
guaranteed,
a fine investment.
A guaranteed $250 back. So no, that hopefully that is all part of the process to make sure that our players are committed to the event, that they're serious about being there, and then when they do, they're at least coming out ahead right off the bat. Now I know they have other expenses, but that's to say though that to go home with something, no matter what, you could travel that direction and be there and be all excited and have a poor day or a poor weekend, and you're no matter what, you're not going home empty-handed, which is awesome. And I mean, worst case scenario, you spend a few days in the Charlotte disc golf scene. Come on.
I was just going to say, I could foresee a very active club that maybe hosts an event for those who maybe don't make some of the the finals, having another event kind of side loaded, and
Yeah.
being able to visit Charlotte in general. It's been a long time since we've seen a huge event there. Not since, I think, Worlds is what I believe.
Well, they hosted Worlds last year,
Yep.
but on the pro side, yeah, it is the first like pro side elite event to be in Charlotte, and that's one thing that right away, for a couple years I've been looking at Charlotte and thinking, hey, we gotta bring a high level pro event there. We added Portland last year to the tour, and it only makes sense to have a venue like Charlotte, host an event of this level. Yeah, and I think there is a B tier nearby. So if players don't make it out of Friday, they're going to have another chance to play. And if they do make it to the weekend, then they're going to have $1,000 or more. So
That's
it's
plenty.
definitely going to work out, I think, for everybody. And that's definitely what I heard from all the players. When we talked to them is hey, this is great. It's right up the road. It's where we are already at. And they all do love Charlotte. Like it's great to put a spotlight on this city. So
Now, maybe this is a precursor or not, or just a little insight into, is Charlotte a city, hosting the championships this year, kind of, I'll say last moment, or as kind of this alternative that was thrown in a very advantageous way? Are they a city to be looking at as a tour stop possibly, or maybe a championships already for next year in the 2020 season?
yeah, so absolutely, we're working on the schedule. Right now, it's going back and forth with the PDGA, and we're hoping to finalize that soon. And the Tour Championship will need to be finalized, pretty soon for 2020. So that's definitely in the mix. And we'll release that information. I believe the normal major finalization NT DGPT is around mid to late October, and then 8 tiers get scheduled. So I think it'll be done about a month or so potentially before that, maybe 3 weeks before that, and then there's some vetting time, making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, but then everybody will get to see it, and the 8 tiers will get to be scheduled. So yeah, we're looking forward to lining everything up on the schedule. And I mean, I'd love to include Charlotte every year for sure.
And sorry if I missed this and I was looking at the board, but we keep mentioning Charlotte. Have we mentioned the actual course it's going to be at? Charlotte has about 1 million of them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's going to be at Hornets Nest Park, and it's actually the course that Paul got his first championship at, Paul Macbeth. I think
Did Sarah Hokum.
As did Sarah Hokum. Yes, that's right. She didn't go on to win 4 more yet, although I think that she's got it in her. But I'll also say that it was the first one that I think Jomez filmed at, right? I think he dropped I think I saw a video of Jomez just saying he showed up with his Jonathan showed up with his camera and just started filming, and then that's where the brand started there. And we do anticipate having Jomez there for this event, as well as SmashBoxx, and we hope to bring an amazing live coverage product, I think. And we've already, I don't know, I don't want to drop anything that we haven't committed to yet, but I think it's going to be a great broadcast.
Awesome. Well, the Tour Championship has always been a really great broadcast because there's usually quite a few things going on, and the way the format has been in the past, it's been basically a win your card and move on, which always adds to a little bit of jostling. Plus, I think usually one wild card for a hot score, something along those lines. So there's always been a lot of action on who's going to make it and who doesn't, and it's one of those events where we can kind of bounce around, and it always feels really exciting.
Yeah. Now.
Yeah, actually, I'd love to update everybody on the format because we did make some changes. It's not going to be a 4-day event. So the bottom 16 seeds 17 through 32 are going to play in 4 groups of 4, and the top 8 scorers are going to then advance to form another group of 16 with our quarterfinalists, the folks that got a bye to the quarterfinals, which are seeds 9 through 16. So those seeds 9 through 16 get a bye to the quarters, and we'll play the 8 qualifiers from round 1 and do the same thing right over again. So if they're going to play 1 round, and the top 8 scores will then go to the semifinals, which are going to include our seeds 1 through 8. Okay, and that will be another group of 16. We're going to play in 4 cards of 4, and here's where the change comes in, guys. There's not going to be a wild card. We're just going to take the top 4 scores from that group of 16 and make a card of 4 for the finals.
Nice. Okay, yeah, if there's been a complaint in the past, and I honestly really like both formats, but if there's been a complaint in the past, it's that somebody doesn't get into the finals and they shoot a really hot score, but just happen to have 2 people or whatever on the hot score, and that has been kind of the one kickback that some people have had regarding the format. So I'm excited to see this slight change to see how this one kind of plays out.
Yeah, and I mean, I like that format too. We thought about it and went back and forth and just said, hey, we want to eliminate, any areas where, a score could be better than someone else that gets in. Mm-hmm. And, we'll see how that pans out. And I think, match play is really exciting. And that's kind of the idea in the wild card. And we'd love, and we're hoping to do something with match play in 2020. So, stay tuned for that. And you'll hear about that hopefully pretty soon as well.
Next week? Are you coming on next week and telling us?
maybe next month, but I mean, I'd love to come on next week. Is that an official invite?
Jeff, you're always invited. That's the way it works,
But no, I think that format change hopefully will be positive because it's going to be a little bit more, kind of traditional. But at the same time, I think it will be just as exciting because we're going to have, kind of all the cards coming down one at a time. You're going to have the first group, second group, third group, fourth group. And as that fourth group comes in, they're going to see the scores that they need to beat that are already posted. So it's going to be the top 4. And then, it's going to be, I think we're all excited about the fact that it's just going to be a card of 4 for the championship. And that's going to be a little bit easier to film, a little quicker, a little bit easier for our audience to digest. And then on the FPO side, we're going to do 16 instead of 15. We feel that cards of 4 for women are great. We know that cards of 3, I think the intent was to speed up play. But, we have all the time we need in this event, and I think a card of 4 is just fine. So we're going to do, basically, I think the top 4 are going to get a bye into the semis, and the FPO will start on Friday and be able to play every day that the men play as well. And so those 12 will battle for 4 spots. And then those 4 will join the 4 in the semis, and those 8 will then battle for 4 spots, and then there'll just be 4 spots for the championship on Sunday.
All right, so it's still the same mentality of shoot the low score and you'll be just fine.
That's right.
Or play your best golf. I mean, it makes things a little bit more straightforward, which is what I think you're trying to streamline and get exactly to that. Eliminating some of those other, situations where, like you said, Johnny, 2 really good scores on a card may actually hinder someone else
or something like that.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
I would say in summary, we want an exciting format, but we want the focus to be on the play and the players, not the format.
Okay. So. Yeah. All right. Well, awesome. Looking forward to it. I'm sure there's going to be more details that will continue to
trickle out.
Trickle, that's the word I was looking for. Trickle out, and as others have asked on the board, and as you've already explained, you've talked to a lot of our players. I know you've put a lot of deep thought into this, along with the feedback from players and probably sponsors, media teams, all of those people, all coming to this ultimate conclusion. And here we are, and we're going to be excited for it. But first, before we get to the Tour Championships in that mid to later part of October, we've got Green Mountain Championships, which now comes up in less than 2 weeks. Are you ready for the big show to come to your backyard? Literally?
I can't wait. I got to be honest. These courses are looking better than ever. Fox Run is going to be a real showpiece this year. We've got a couple tricks up our sleeve that's going to make it look really nice. And big shout out to our crew, Jeremy Becker, Rusty, Greg Fatigate, all the guys, Nick Hover, that are working on the course super hard. And I can't wait for the event. It's going to be a great competition. Barsby's back. He just won Worlds. I know Paige Bierkes is wavering because she's got wedding planning. So I'm hoping she can make it, but that might be a drop. I'm starting to hear. I know that she wasn't at MVP, her and Grady. But other than that, I'm really happy to announce that we have new presenting sponsor support from Grip Equipment.
Wow.
They're coming on board, and they're going to give a CS2 bag to every AM on the AM side, which is pretty crazy. It's a bag that's valued at like $179. So thank you to Grip Equipment. They are awesome, and they're a new presenting sponsor with Discraft. It's going to be called Discraft's GMC, presented by Grip at Smuggler's Notch Resort. So we're just adding on more and more words to the title.
Yeah.
But
when your title of your
Grip,
event becomes longer than one of our podcasts, then you know you're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. But big shout out to Discraft. Bob Giulio and the team there, really helped make that deal come to fruition. And Discraft just, we couldn't ask for a bigger and better presenting sponsor than them that have helped this event grow. So big shout out to Discraft, and they're sending some great product out as well. But yeah, I have no idea who's going to win this event on either side, and I'm really excited to see what's going down. And it's a little later this year. The leaves have started to change. I'm starting to see a little red, a tinge of orange. We're gonna miss you though, Terry.
Yeah, you are, and I apologize as some of the plans got shifted throughout the entire season. I know we all know about them, as the Pro Tour had made certain calls and decisions to go one way or another and do certain things. I had a very amazing opportunity pop up, along with actually a bunch of them pop up, and some of those I committed to right away. And the fact that I'm a very blessed man to say I have to miss being in Vermont, one of the most beautiful places on earth, to then instead go to Norway to cover disc golf. So yes, I do apologize.
Yeah,
I know.
We all feel so bad for you.
Exactly. I know you guys are. But yeah, like everyone else, I look so forward. Jeff, you and I talked 3-4 years ago when I first came out to Smugs, before there was a Pro Tour, before there was some of this, and like everyone else, I've fallen in love with the place and the courses and the facilities and the people. And so I am very disappointed that I can't be there, but I guess if the next best thing is Norway, then I'll be all right. So it's going to be so exciting because there's that anticipation, and some may or may not love that, but the anticipation, it's almost in exactly 4 weeks before they go from the final event of the year to then find themselves in Charlotte, and they're playing the Hall of Fame Classic, and they're playing USDGC, and they're playing all these other big events as well in between. But GMC then down to Charlotte, and Maple Hill this last weekend, what a way to close out the season.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And the one thing I did want to mention about the Tour Championship is that Dynamic Discs is on board as a premier partner. Not only were they gracious in helping, solve this problem, but they're still supporting the event, which is awesome. As well as Prodigy. Prodigy Disc is on board, and that's fantastic too, because the last 2 years they've hosted, and I think they very much want to continue to be involved, and they would love to host in the future, and we hope to have them there. But they're basically, serving as a pseudo host too, because they're going to be on board as a big sponsor as well. So, big shout out to those two. But you're right, the stretch coming down here, it's kind of a disc golf fan's dream. I'm a big fan of the sport. I can't wait to see, how GMC unfolds, and of course USDGC is just kind of the crowning event, one of if not like the biggest and most prestigious event in the world. Kind of like disc golf's Masters, as we all know. So, I'm going to get to go down and see part of that. And then, man, WR Jackson, one of my favorite wooded courses in the world. It's just an amazing competition course. And the International Disc Golf Center, just an amazing venue. So, You're right, Terry. It's just it's all falling into place, and I hope disc golfers are excited because this is just a taste of what to come.
Yeah, and just to answer any of the questions, the last 2 years we've been in Jacksonville. Robbie and the crew over there at New World have been such gracious hosts for us. How did that conversation unfold? Was that part of the old decisions or newer decisions in that ultimately we kind of shifted out of Florida for at least this year?
Yeah, so obviously the decision to go to Emporia was made, by Steve and the previous tour management, and as we discussed that with Jeremy, the thought did come up on going to a number of different locations in the Southeast. We know we've been to New World, but I think the best and the only option for us was to take the least amount of risk. And Charlotte provided, that because we have a change in a very short amount of time to get things up and running. And I'm sure New World could have done it. But, we want to turn out some big spectator numbers and go to a place that, has almost 600 club members, because it's just a ridiculously short amount of time. And for a while there, kind of felt like a no-win situation. We considered just ending the Tour Championship in Vermont and doing tour bonuses. And, honestly, I've talked to Robbie, and I think he's more excited about potentially getting on tour with a full tour event. And we are already in discussions on that. So, hopefully that'll come to fruition. I can't, commit to anything there yet. But I know that Robbie has an amazing venue. This is Robbie Newcomer down at New World, and he's got amazing support with Prodigy, and it's just a fantastic venue for a sport, and I'd love to get the tour back there. So I thank Prodigy for the support, and I thank Robbie for, kind of working through this with me. But, if anybody's down in that area, you got to check out New World Disc Golf, and pretty soon you'll see the Pro Tour, back right in that area. So
awesome.
that's kind of how everything shook.
Yeah, and as you just said, there's it's been great being at New World. No one can deny that. We haven't seen quite the in-person turnout in terms of spectatorship, and so to go try things out at Charlotte with such a huge club support, I think we might see a little bit more of that. And as you just said, next year and in future, we've got plans, to explore every possible option and do what's best for the players first and foremost, and then do what's best for growing the sport overall.
Yeah.
So before we let you go, I've got two people now yelling at me that they want to come on the show. One, Jeremy Colling and Dana Vici.
Ooh.
We want to real quickly touch on, right before GMC, the Jomez Skins match that's about to happen. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're really excited to announce that. Jomez did their first Skins match broadcast of the traditional Skins match that they hold before the Santa Cruz Master Cup. And, we worked with some of the manufacturers, so Discraft, Dynamic Discs, Discmania, and Prodigy. And they're all registered their players for this event that we're going to have a $5,000 purse on. And the most exciting part is that we have two 5-time world champs that are going to be competing. It's going to be on Fox
Juliana
Run.
Korver and Elaine King.
Yeah.
Right? No?
No, Terry, but close.
Oh,
it's Paul Macbeth and Paige Pierce, also reigning champs. I should have made that differentiation. But we also have Kevin Jones from Prodigy and Simon Lizotte. So, I mean, these guys are going to be able to throw pretty far. Of course, there's OB on Fox Run, and it's going to be super fun and really entertaining to watch Paige Pierce keep up with these guys. And, I have a sneaking sensation that she's going to snare some skins. And that was a lot of S's in a row. But but yeah, it's Tuesday, 3 p.m. before the Green Mountain Championship. And the footage will be released later by Jomez. But it's going to be a really fun event. And if you are in the area and you come out, there's a raffle to become caddies for these players. And you get your very own caddy bib with the pro's name on the back and the logo. It's a pretty cool little setup here. We got some merchandise coming out for it as well, and anybody can buy that from home online as well. So yeah, the skins match is going to be fun, and we're looking forward to hosting.
Sweet. All right, man. If they were only live, I'm gonna complain. No, okay. All right, guys. Well, seriously, thank you, Jeff, for all the information and the insight here tonight. Back-to-back weeks with really big news, and we're glad to be one of those outlets to help spread that news. And we're obviously really glad to continue a relationship with the Disc Golf Pro Tour in whatever capacity you need us for. But GMC live in another 8 or 10 days or so, and then we'll be back a month after that to bring it to you out of Charlotte, and all should be very, very exciting for all of disc golf and for all the fans out there.
All right. Well, I definitely am not going to come on next week because I need more Dynamite for sure.
Yeah, and, everybody does.
I hope we get a good run at him, and excited to see Germ coming from Nantucket, which is coming up. Todd Rainwater's event.
Yeah, you got it. We'll be there this weekend, and we'll talk to Germ about that and a little bit more about Charlotte too when we're done talking with Dana. So we'll let you go, Jeff. Appreciate it. Enjoy your time up there in Vermont as fall is upon us. Amazing place to be up there at Smuggler's Notch, and looking forward to talking soon.
We'll miss you, Terror Bear. Thanks,
right.
JPD.
No problem, Jeff. Have a good
All right,
one.
see ya. Good night. All right, so Jeff Spring with some more news here for us tonight. Just dropped moments before we went live. Yes, in fact, this was all coordinated, believe it or not.
It's the planning that goes into all this is amazing.
Exclusive. So just really excited. There's a lot of pieces to these puzzles, and they're kind of getting, I don't want to say put together. All the pieces were there. It was just kind of a matter of like, okay, we're going to put together a slightly different looking puzzle than maybe what was there, and it's taken quite an effort by so many people, with this process. So Jeff's working hard. We know the entire staff and crew is working hard. Everyone's trying to make this the best possible closeout here to the 2019 season, and it all hopefully is going to carry plenty of momentum into a fresh and exciting 2020 as well. But we've got plenty to be excited about as we close out here in 2019. So, do you have Dynamite available, ready to go? I
do.
I know Dynamite is. It's getting past his bedtime, or at least his kid's bedtime. So, coming in, hanging out, he's officially lounging in the Disc Baron Digital Green Room. Now he's here. Dynamite. Sorry, bro.
Dana's checking his watch for all you at home who are listening.
Give us the most that you can in your slightly condensed time now, Dana. Give it to us hard.
No, now that I heard Germ is waiting, I think I'm going to really take my time.
he literally mentioned he jumped on and he said I'm on Skype, I'm ready whenever. I said, well, we're gonna have Dana on first, and he said that better be Dana White and not Dana Vici. So that's all I'm saying. And so, yes, we will have Germ whenever you decide that you are ready to relieve us of your presence, Dana. Take your time. It's only Big Germ.
It's the Dynamite hour. What do you got for us, buddy?
Boys, it's good to see you, first of all.
It is. It's great to see you, too.
I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm a little hurt. I keep getting bumped. You guys had some world champions, and then Big Jeff Spring last week, Big Jeff Spring this week. Feels like it's been a while, but thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
We are glad to do so. And if you would, get back out on that tour every once in a while, these visits and these interactions would maybe be a little bit more frequent. What are you doing? Raising kids, being super dad and super husband over there? Selling your creeper van? What? You're a changed man.
Well, one, yes, I'm very into dad life and husband life.
Yep.
Two, that's my buddy's creeper van. Paul Oman now has my van, we'll say.
Oh, okay, fitting.
Oh, a bigger creeper.
So fitting.
I won't argue with that statement. But yeah, my buddy Mark, we had a fantasy football draft, and he pulls up in this unbelievably awesome 1985 van, less than 100,000 miles. It's all pristine. He's like, I'm selling it, buddy. I'm like, I'll take a picture and share it. Maybe, I got a bunch of Wookiee hippie disc golfing friends that might be interested.
Yeah, I'm going to take it to my next String Cheese Incident concert.
Yep.
Oh,
Go see the Big Woo. I'm almost out of I'm almost out of jam bands. That's honestly other than Fish, then I'm done.
I'm pretty sure that Jason Kalaviska's partner in Airborne, he's related or friends with someone in Big Woo. It's just, small little connection there. Speaking of Kalaviska, he was back playing this weekend. Not the MVP Open, where he's a two-time winner, wants Marshall Street, wants Vibram Open, one of the very few two-time winners. But yeah, Kale, he had a Lyme flare-up after, Mad City Open. So he's been in recovery mode. Played last weekend, got edged out by Alex Geisinger at the Lake Superior Open for second place. And then this weekend, it looked like Kale was back to himself. He's playing at the beautiful Sandy Point Resort, the 25th Northwoods Open. It's we've talked about it quite a bit on here. It's one of my favorite places to play. Terry and Johnny, I know you guys have fond memories there of maybe losing to Team Illinois, or other fond memories. But yeah, Kale was up there playing in the woods. Shredded first round he popped off a little course record, and it was like, all right, looks like Kale's over it. But day two came along, and with day two came Dan Schlitter. Dan is an Illinois guy. He's a big hype man, great promoter, super nice guy, great player. He's won a bunch of big events this year, and sure enough, he was able to pull off the victory at the Northwoods Open and beat Kale and Keith Warren, who finished in third.
Very impressive. Winning up there, I just think about it's obviously it's a technical course. Kale setting a course record on the longer course, as you mentioned, that opened up things on Saturday. Then they go to a classic course, which has some long pins and some medium pins, maybe even a few short pins. Every hole has, we'll say, multiple options out there. But to see Kale not close it out, for knowing how good he is in that setting and in that environment, and specifically up there, it's fair to say that was a little bit of a shocker. And I know, maybe some of his health caught up with him. He said he ran out of gas a little bit. Totally understandable, but yet still a little bit on the surprising side.
Yeah. Not to take anything away from Dan's victory, but
of
Kale's. I've played a lot of disc golf with Kale over the last 5 years or so, and then watched him play in previous years and he is so good in the woods. Mm-hmm. How he throws the putter in an M4, which when you're playing Sandy Point, you really you're in the woods 99% of the time. You don't really need too many other discs, and Kale it just sets up so nicely for him. But like I said, Dan has had Schlitter has had such a great year, and I don't have all the details, but it did come down to the final hole. It's got a really tight green. I'm not entirely sure what happened, but I saw Dan lay up a pretty difficult shot under the bucket to get the par, and then the one stroke victory. So good on Dan. He's having an incredible year. And as I said, he's a great promoter. He runs leagues, tournaments. I haven't played one of his tournaments, but I know enough from Dan and what he's putting out there that he's running high quality events. I think he's like me. He likes to play in quality events, so he runs quality events. And so again, shout out to him. On the women's side, there was a 4-person field, and Ottawa, Illinois' own Casey Glade took home the victory by something like 14 throws. She came out and just dominated round one. Shot a 939 rated round, which was 11 strokes better than Lori Locke, who was in second place. And then Casey was able to beat her by 5 that second round or something like that. Don't check my math, anybody. But anyways, Casey Blade won that, and your boy Steve held his own in the Masters division, beat my dude Chris Brenholz by 4 throws to get the victory there. But Steve did play some good disc golf, averaged over 1,000. One of these days, I'm going to get back to Sandy Point.
Well, you let us know when you do, because I would love to be up there with you. It's a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite places in the world to go and play disc golf and just be in general. And if you haven't had a chance, if you're looking for a good disc golf destination, we're going to do a little plug here for Mike. He's going to pay. I'm going to send him an invoice. If you're looking for a good disc golf destination to go and play a few courses, northern Wisconsin is the place to go, because you've got Sandy Point, you've got the High Bridge, which is now open, and there's 1 or 2 other really nice courses right up in that area. If you really want to go up there, there's the Superior area as well. So I think we've plugged Mike's tournament enough. It just stinks lately. It's always fallen on the MVP Open weekend for us. So the last couple of years, we haven't had a chance to get up there.
I think I'm going to call in a substitute to go to MVP for me, as great as that place is, so I can go up north.
That's not fair, because I can't really do that.
Yep. I am totally replaceable. I think the world knows that, so that's why I will find someone to go do my job at MVP so I can get back up to the Northwoods. But that will be the plan. Quick shout-out, Dustin Skorpinski, I see. Also a super good local guy. I saw took down Advanced as I was just looking at the results for the first time, but congrats to you, Dustin.
What else you got for us, Dana?
Did you guys go over MVP Open with Jeff?
We really touched on the winners and then just kind of briefly talked about, how they got there, but we didn't really discuss anybody else.
Do we really want to talk about the losers, Johnny?
Well, I mean, there are no losers. There are only winners.
There's only non-winners.
There's only non-winners. Not first, you're last.
Well, let's just we won't harp on it too much, but I will ask, on either FPO or MPO, were there any surprises maybe in their favor or not? Was there any real shockers or surprises out there for you? I don't think that our winners are real big surprises necessarily, but was there anyone where like, wow, they maybe didn't perform where you have expected, or somebody that surprised you on the opposite side and said, man, it was great to see them go out and kill it in the woods? Anything like that jump out at you, Dana?
Well, we got to talk about Double G and his 1,100 rated round.
Of course.
That was round 2, of course, popping off a 48. It's currently at 11:01. And then, him coming out final round and hanging really tough there until kind of a hiccup on the putting green, I think on hole 11.
11, he airballed about a 20-footer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It felt like he had control. And then all of a sudden we're stepping up to hole 11, and then you've got 12, which both holes, if you have a long drive, are, make it a much easier birdie. And all those guys have big arms, but Double G is one of the biggest in the game. And his drive on 11 just didn't look good. I think Nate and Val, who did a great job calling the round, they commented on it. And, he left himself well out of position, didn't really throw, a great shot. And then from there left himself with that 20-footer, a tester, and yacked it. And that kind of spelled the end for him, but he hung tough. And ultimately going into 18, was down a couple and decided to lay up his upshot. Well, so he had an opportunity. He was late through a great tee shot, an opportunity to go for the green and throw it in to tie Paul, who was playing for the 4.
I think the story is really hole 17 more so than hole 18. I mean, 18 kind of plays into it, but both him and Paul put themselves in not so great positions off the drive. Paul's short and to the right and ends up having to fight through some trees, and Double G ends up going long and not being able to get out. They both put themselves on their second shot within 6 feet of each other, it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Double G's up first and literally lays it up. Now, it was, as we want to call it, a death putt. It's an elevated basket with a huge drop-off after it. So if you miss it, or if you miss the basket, you're for certain 30 feet away. especially with Double G's putt. Like just the power and the hyzer he puts into it. And he plays it super safe, right under the pin, and more or less just says, "Okay, Paul, this is yours to win," is the way I kind of felt like he played it. And Paul, being Paul, steps up and drains it from, was it just outside the circle, probably 40 feet?
I would say they were at least 42 to 45 feet.
Okay.
And I was just actually mentioning that on the board as to how far it was. I'll say someone just mentioned and said, well, that was Double G giving up. And I couldn't disagree more. You cannot assume Paul is making that. Now, I'm not surprised that he made it, but you cannot assume that he's for sure making that. And Paul said it best, I feel like, during the interview afterward. He said, he wondered if that was just a little bit of chess. And I am good with that, because Double G would have then, if he would have missed and maybe not made the comebacker, he's officially ended the tournament on 17 for sure. And maybe it had something to do with who was going first. Maybe Double G. I have no doubt that Double G goes for that putt. If Paul were in the opposite situation and Paul makes it first and then Double G is up, then Double G is going for that putt. I can all but guarantee that. But I think it was a little bit of chess.
Yeah, I don't think it was giving up. I think that's a very bad way to put it. He put the win in Paul's hands, is what he did. He put, I'd love to say he put the pressure on Paul, but I kind of feel like Paul doesn't feel pressure.
Well,
so it's kind of like, I don't even know a good scenario on what to say, but he put it into Paul's hands, and Paul, being Paul, did what he does, and he hits a really long putt and secures. Now, he doesn't secure the win, but he definitely puts his own fate in his hands at that point for 18, because 18 you can play very safe and get an easy 4. And at that point, then Double G really almost had no choice as to what he did on 18. Is that how you see it, Dana?
Yeah. And thank you for bringing 17 up. I definitely shouldn't have passed over that, because that's a huge. It's a huge talking point. With the tournament essentially on the line, laying up like that and saying, all right, I'm going into 18 at least down by 1. If Paul makes it, I'm down by 2, and it's pretty much over. I'd be interested to hear Double G's thought process on that. We don't have very many options to take out Paul Macbeth. I know that prior to the round, the chatter was, this is the Paul, the card that's beaten Paul, and or the Paul Slayers, because they've all beaten Paul at some point in the last year, with Barsby winning Worlds and Double G winning in Michigan earlier this year, and
Masters, right?
Yeah, at the
Masters Cup.
Yeah. So, Masters. So how many times is Paul? I think Terry countered. How many times is Paul? Just put a beat down on those guys and everybody else. So,
and
I don't know.
To be fair, Paul did bogey that hole earlier in the event, I believe. He airball. I think he missed a putt and had a comeback. I'm going to look at the rounds here for Paul on 17. He threed it round 2. Was it round 1? I thought he missed it. No, maybe I'm wrong. He birdied it every round. So I was thinking somebody else. But I
think as someone who has played against Paul, going back to the first year of the Disc Golf Pro Tour finals out at Green Mountain, and pushing him, I played it a little too safe on that last hole. When I ultimately threw out of bounds, I should have been more aggressive. But I regret that. In hindsight, you only get so many. I personally probably won't get another opportunity to beat Paul Macbeth. But Double G and like these other, if you have that opportunity,
well,
don't you have to grab it? Don't
no.
I mean,
you have to, if you want to beat him, you have to. Yes,
you're saying playing a chess match, but to win, and there was a little buffer on third place, to win and to beat Paul, it comes down.
I
personally think he should have ran for it, but I'm saying that as someone who, essentially did the same thing.
Of course, all of us couch riders say that Double G should have run it. And again, I'm like you. You put me in that position, I'm going to run it. But that's also from where we're looking, because you and I will never probably be in that. Maybe you, Dana, but Terry and I will never be in that position. So, there's a shot at glory. You give me a chance to beat Paul Macbeth at MVP, I'm going to try to take it. I don't care if I end up in 12th or 15th afterwards, because that to me makes no difference. The money I'm going to get for second place versus 12th place, at that point, it's a Cinderella story for someone like us. But for Double G, who needs to make ends meet week after week after week, Double G's going to have way more opportunities at this. He's Double G's hitting his prime. There's it was about $500 in the difference between him taking solo second and tied for second, plus whatever Innova bonus he has. So on 18, not running at that, to me, it makes sense, because him hitting that putt from where he was at on 18 is probably a 1 in 500 or a 1 in 1,000 shot. You line up 1,000 Sonics on there, he's probably putting 1 or 2 of those in from that position, just shot after shot after shot. So for him to lay up on 18, I had zero problems with that. And there's a lot of people that are questioning that decision, and I just think, yeah, it sucks that you have to look at the finances, because as we know, you put Paul Macbeth in that position, he's going to run that 18 putt as hard as he can. He's done it in the past. And because Paul doesn't care if he takes second or fifth, or he always wants to finish as well as he can, but Paul wants to win.
Mm-hmm.
And if he has to take third or fourth, so be it. He at least gave himself an opportunity. Double G has other things to think about and worry about. And I get it, and that sucks.
Can I interrupt you? Is it too late to backtrack and say that he should have went for 18? Because now you've talked me into, that was the right move, and 17 was the spot to go for it. But
yeah.
Anyways, it was a fun watch. Terry, don't shake your head at me, son.
I'm fine with what he did on 17. I'm still fine with it.
I'm fine with it as well. He tried to put the pressure on Paul. It's a decision. And the decision is fine for me. I'm not going to question his decision, because that's what he's doing. I'm just saying that you put a schlub like us in that position that's different than Double G, who will have these opportunities again. I am okay with the choice he made.
Okay.
And knowing Double G's putt, as powerful as it is, the style he putts in, maybe he wasn't feeling it. Or maybe he just chose to make that decision because he knows if I miss it, I'm probably taking a 5 here. And then I'm fighting for second or third. And at least 18, he could maybe hope Paul would screw something up. Maybe somehow go OB on a second shot out of craziness. Or I'm a little surprised maybe that Double G didn't try a roller on 18. I know it's a very tough shot, but I've seen Double G throw some massive rollers in my day. And I feel like that could have been the shot. I was fully expecting him to walk up to 18 and think, if you can't get it done on the drive, then that's fine. But I'm a little shocked to see him not try to go a little bit different route on the drive. So, but yeah, that's unique. That's a Double G position.
Sure. And awesome performance by him. Popping off the 1100, battling, all the way down to the end there against Paul and everyone else. I do want to mention Joel Freeman. He's been playing some good disc golf. No big surprise. He's 1025 rated if you haven't been paying attention. He's got back-to-back third places, and also tying for third was Simon. I liked how the SmashBoxxTV, you guys cut over to Simon's upshot there on 18. He was on the chase card and, chasing those guys, and he had an opportunity. He was in a pretty good spot on 18 for a birdie, and ultimately threw his upshot out of bounds and had to settle for shooting a 52 and ending up at 20 under par, which Paul was 23 under par. So great showing by Simon. And then Barsby and Conrad to wrap things up on the MPO side. Those two are on the lead card. Just a really fun watch. Conrad, and he had some tough breaks early in the round. He was all over those baskets, just couldn't get the disc to stay in them, and then comes down the stretch. And what did he do on? Did he birdie 16 and then eagle 17, birdie 18, or was it just eagle 17, birdie 18, Johnny?
He did. I'm looking right now at Conrad. He parred 16. Then
Okay.
He eagled 17 on a phenomenal drive. He put himself just outside of, I think, Paul and Double G on his drive, which is it's an amazing shot. And then he hits one of those patented James Conrad walking putts, or I don't know, call it walking, gliding, his gliding putts, and then proceeds to get a 3 on 18, which is just, again, a phenomenal upshot. He just threw a perfect turnover and put it right on the green. I mean, you're right. He just started out very slow and missed some shots that he would normally make. He was, sad to say, he was out of it by hole 7. Like, he wasn't going to make a run at it from where he was after that start. But
yeah,
you know, that's
I mean, to dig deep like he did there, and you know, I mentioned the putts that didn't stick early. That putt on 17, he thought he missed it. It snuck in that left backside. He was actually going backwards and then had to reverse to go chase it down. That was an incredible moment. That was a lot of fun. But that was just Maple Hill. I've talked about it quite a bit over the years. It's been one of my favorite places to visit, to play. The fans, the people. You know, we all saw it with the 8 holes. But I've got a lot of really great memories at Maple, and I do look forward to my next trip there.
I'm a little nervous about those 8 holes, to be honest. Like, if that becomes a thing bigger than it is, where we saw it kind of small in the first and second round, the third round it picked up, that's going to be interesting and fun, and I always turn a little obnoxious.
Well,
which is good, but
no, I think the bigger problem that could come of it, and we have to start thinking ahead, whether it's next year or 5 years from now, is when that becomes that situation. You know, happens maybe on a couple holes throughout the course, which any given course on some of these events or spot on some of these courses could happen. That's great, and you have 50 or 80 or 100 or 200 people out there. Where are they positioned relative to the play? Now, if they're behind the basket like that, behind OB, we don't see a real good chance or the likelihood of it going past the basket, going into OB, and then them truly interfering with it. However, if they line up somewhere else that's inbounds, and you have 50 or 80 or 200 people having a really good time, they're involved and they're excited, but one person's not going to be paying attention at some point. And what happens when a disc comes in and then gets involved and so on and so forth? I
think of 14 more so, where they line the fairway, where if a disc came in and someone wasn't paying attention, they're going to stop a disc from going deep in the woods, and it's going to hit on the edge and probably help a player out. That's more so what I'm worried about is
crowd control. It has to be. Now, nothing to take away from any of those guys right now, very under control, but just the general term crowd control will continue, hopefully, to be something that has to be addressed as we hopefully, see more bigger, enthusiastic crowds. Is that a fair way to put it, Dana?
Yeah, definitely something to consider. And those New Englanders, they get down too. So if there's going to be crowd control, I could see it being with that Wild crew. But another one of the reasons I love Maple.
All right.
I was to wrap up Maple Hill and the MVP Open. One of the things I was really happy to hear and really excited about was I mentioned to Jeff that after we finished our live broadcast, we had a static camera on hole 18, and we left it running. I talked to some of the guys, and I said, hey, can you just point it down? Actually, they decided to point it down because I didn't know where the awards were going to be. It was actually closer to the shed than it has been when I was there. And I got to hear Steve say, there were some wonderful speeches between Steve and Jeff and the winners, but one of the things that Steve said was that he thanked MVP for their support, and said that the past couple of years he's been a little bit absent from the event for obvious reasons, and that if we thought that this year was good, he can't wait until what we see next year, where he has an entire year to work on the MVP Open. And so that is something I am really excited about, because I look at that event and I think, how could this get much better? But knowing Steve like I do, he's going to come up with some crazy idea and make it way better.
Yeah, I'm certainly excited to hear that. And before I let us close out, I have to also mention Dana, a good friend of ours, in watching the performance by Pierce. Not only did she have such a distance on her competitors this weekend, which maybe isn't necessarily news, but when it was all said and done, she wrapped up the weekend averaging 1,011 golf.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, incredible.
Yeah, and really, she was it her first round or second round where she was shredding and then came in and double bogeyed 18.
It was her first round, because she let Kat get within like 2 strokes.
Her first round was 10-21 rated, and she ended it with a double bogey. But Paige, she said, she got a little revenge. She had a poor finish last year in 6th or 7th, and was looking to get back to her winning ways, and that she did. Got to give Kristen Tatar a shout out. She played some really good disc golf, topped off her first 1,000 rated round, and if you watched, you know that she had some opportunities to make that even better. So she's, we've talked about her and some of the other European players, so it's great seeing her play and compete. And they Paige had a slow start that final round, so Kristen and the rest of the women on the lead card kind of got within striking distance, but then Paige just ended up staving them off. Sarah Hokum played a really solid tournament as well. She popped off 1,000 rated round. But the one last thing I want to say and close out my segment and the MVP Open is I want to give a shout out to Kona star Panis. She Panis, whatever.
I just laughed because Val kept calling her Panis as well, and I'm like, fairly certain it's Panis. That was just one of those Val things that she had done, and then you just followed it up with the exact same thing. So I just got a chuckle out of that.
Well, she's had kind of an up and down year, and so it was good to see her play some really good disc golf and get in the cash. Her second round, the back 9, she shredded, so it was nice to see her hang on and get into the cash. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Kona, and Paige, she's a beast. Incredible weekend. So I definitely look forward to getting back to Maple Hill, and I think I've talked enough. I'm ready for Big Germ to come on, because I'm ready for bed now.
No, you can stay longer. Please stay with us, Dana, all night, please. All right, now we'll let you go. It's been great having you back, and we'll probably get back into a little bit more of a routine here, our typical routine, assuming we don't have all this big breaking exclusive stories and news coming up in the next few weeks, but maybe we will. What's not exclusive, SmashBoxx exclusive or breaking news, this is the way we can let you go, Dana. The last time Paige Pierce didn't take first place in a tournament in the PDGA was the middle of May. So think about that when you rest that curly hair of yours tonight, about how in the world someone can dominate the way she does, that it goes all the way back. And even there, it was a second place finish, but she has won every tournament she's entered since the middle of May. I don't know how anyone hangs with that in that FPO field, but they'll all keep trying, and we'll keep putting it up on the screen. All right, Dynamite, we appreciate you, buddy. Love you. Good hearing from you, and we'll talk next week.
Bye, Dana.
Peace.
I wasn't sure how long I should keep him on there. Keep Jerem waiting.
Jeremy Coling is out on the board saying, "Please go now, Dana. Love you long time."
Speaking of one Jeremy Coling, let me get him on here real quick.
All right, we're gonna have him. It looks like he's in the Disc Baron digital green room.
I need to update. He's not Jeff Spring, so I need to update.
No, not nearly as good looking either.
Oh no, clearly
that's what
not.
Jeff
That's what Jeff said.
Agrees with.
Jeff always says that. It's really weird when we see Jeff. He introduces himself. I'm Jeff Spring, much better looking than Jeremy Colling.
And we're like, yeah.
Okay, dude, it's fine. But
all right, I guess we're gonna welcome him to the show, bringing it in all the way from out in, I believe, Nantucket Island. Big Jeremy Colling. How we doing?
Jeremy Colling.
All right, you're on.
You're on. Go ahead and close your YouTube.
Yep. You can go ahead and.
Speaking
technology, he's just killing it tonight.
Here, real quick. All right, we're gonna have him. It looks like he's in the
all right, hopefully
turn off your YouTube, Jeremy.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're trying to.
What do you need me to do? I need to drop the volume.
You need to turn off YouTube.
That's what Jeff.
It sounds like you got your YouTube running. Close that down entirely.
I'm trying to.
It's really weird.
All right.
There we go.
And some people think he just steps inside of a booth and does nothing but talk. I don't know how they would arrive at that. Seems like he'd be a chief technology officer over there at Jomez, but maybe he's got a different title. How are we doing tonight? You there, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm trying to get you in my headphones real quick.
That's all right. You there?
All right.
Are we in your headphones?
Last thing I really ever thought I'd want to say.
Just have us in your ears.
All right. That's enough for Big Germ tonight. I think we've heard all we need.
Thanks for joining the show.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing very well. I'm in Nantucket. I'm here with some really great people, some great friends, my girlfriend. Got a beautiful house, and I'm not injured anymore, and so things are on the up and up for me, and so I'm really happy.
So you're playing this next weekend in Nantucket? Your body feels better?
What? I'm playing disc golf. I've played one round since July 21st, which was the last round of the European Open. It wasn't pretty. The game's a bit rusty. My muscles are a bit sore. I haven't really been able to get up and move around that much in this past 6 weeks. Just doing rehab, going to the chiropractor and all that, trying to get my body right.
And you feel like now your body is right. You had an issue with your sciatic nerve, or your
yes,
and
yeah. So it was. Everyone kept asking me, "How's your back? How's your back?" The back was always fine. I never really had any pain in the back. The pain was caused from a problem in my back with the L4, L5, and a problem with some swelling around the nerve, which was pinching, or swelling around the disc, which was pinching the nerve, and shooting pain down my left leg. The pain was in my leg. I was unable to walk. If you saw me in that 6 to 8 week span, you just saw me limping and, like in a lot of pain. It got so bad that I actually wasn't even really able to move around outside of like going from the bed to the bathroom to the couch to watch TV. And it didn't really even allow me to like do any work because just sitting up was too much pain. And I actually dropped out of this tournament. I dropped out in Vermont, and because I didn't think there was a chance. My symptoms were just getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and it looked like I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to get back before the U.S. DGC. Fortunately, just kind of like a miracle happened, and while doing rehab one night, the symptoms just started to dissipate, and then like that weekend, I was able to walk around, and then like I was able to move around for hours without any pain, whereas I couldn't do it for seconds for weeks. So.
Yeah, and so not to jinx it or anything, but do you think that's the long term? Do you think you're just completely on the mend?
No, it's going to be recurring until I'm going to be continuously going to chiropractic. I'm going to be working on trying to work on stability in my lower back, mobility in my upper back, and try to do whatever I can to try to hydrate that disc. Because right now it's the degeneration is pretty bad on it, and so I know that I'm going to be dealing with this for like the long term, but I'm just going to be continuously working on it to try to make sure that it comes back, maybe not as intense and a lot less often.
And what specifically like gets you to the point where the pain that you had? Was there anything you could have done to say prevent this? Years ago, or in any of your habits, or is it just something that was inevitable that was going to happen?
I think that at a certain point, it was probably inevitable that it was going to happen, but I don't know at what point, like, I got to that tipping point. Because, I have such a, when I throw backhands, I really get around on it on my lower back. And when you have that much mobility, it causes a lot of problems. So I think that just strengthening your core at a young age and just doing whatever you can really helps prevent that kind of stuff. But when talking to the doctors while working through this, some of their observations were that I was actually like, I've had lower back problems since probably when I started walking as a child, because they predicted just by looking at my spine that I probably didn't crawl as long as I was supposed to, which I had no idea about. But apparently when a baby crawls for longer, they actually develop that natural curvature in their spine that really that you're looking for, so that it's not putting as much strain and pressure on your lower back. And so inevitable since I started walking, perhaps, I don't really know. But, I mean, just disc golf is a very violent sport on our bodies, and especially for someone who's been playing for 13 years and like playing it full time for 13 years. Eventually you're just going to see problems like that. But, yeah, man, I'm glad that it's currently not happening right now, because it was the toughest pain I've ever dealt with as an adult or any time in my life. Like, I mean, it was excruciating.
Well, and not that we get certainly paid to bring it up, but this just drives home exactly what someone like Seth at Disc Golf Strong has been, I'll say preaching and pitching to us for the last couple of years now. You just said a violent sport. There's a lot more going on than what most people realize, because they don't think of, it as nearly as crazy as MMA or football, but really the amount of stress and strain that you're putting on all sorts of many parts of your body to do what you do, to throw it as far as you do, for instance, all of those things need to be considered, and that's where enter Seth and Disc Golf Strong, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to give a quick shout out to Seth myself. He worked with me a lot at the European Open, the one tournament that I've actually been able to play and finish. He was out there in Nokia and worked with me in my warm-up routine every round. Helped me get my 5th place finish, just giving me the best advice he possibly could. As soon as the round started, the pain kind of went away, and I couldn't really believe it. I think it was just my adrenaline, my body just being like as amazing as I needed to be for that 3-hour stretch. As soon as the round was over, I was like limping to the car just to get back to the hotel so I could lie down. It was a wild ride. But on top of that, just like last week or like 10 days ago, I received a package from Amazon in the mail, and it didn't say who it was from, and it was this back pain book from I forget the name of the author, but apparently it's like the encyclopedia for like anything back related. And I had no idea where it came from, because it didn't have a sender's address or a name or anything like that. And I was like, this is really nice. I really appreciate this, but it's kind of creepy too. Like, who knows my address and is sending me stuff?
Oh,
like,
Jeff Bezos is watching your every move. Don't worry. He sent it directly.
And then I remember giving my address to somebody, but I didn't remember who it was. And then Seth called me a couple days ago, and he was like, "Hey, did you get that book I sent you?" And I was like, "Oh, that was you." And I pieced it together. But at first I was like really kind of creeped out and like really appreciative at the same time.
Wow, that sounds like something Seth would do. Such a great resource for all of us in disc golf.
That makes it a lot better, I think. No.
He's just such a great resource, and he's so knowledgeable, preventative, and in terms of helping, recovery, all of those different types of things.
He cares.
Yeah, and
he's
definitely
like a friend,
Exactly.
He's like having a really knowledgeable friend that actually like goes out of his way to care. He set up a rehab, a plan specifically for me. He really went out of his way to like check in on me daily, and like I don't even expect that from my doctors who I'm paying them for. To do that just as a friend for friend kind of thing. It's really cool. He's a special person.
Yeah. Back injuries absolutely suck.
Yeah.
I've had pinched nerves in my upper back and bulging disc in my lower back at one point, and they're no fun, and they really do a number on you as far as your golfing goes. That's for certain. So,
God, yeah, I don't want to deal with it anymore.
Well,
I hope it doesn't come back for a couple more years, maybe for the rest of my career. That'd be great.
Lots of stretching, lots of working out. So let's talk about, I don't know where we should start. Do we start with Charlotte or do we start with Nantucket, Terry?
Let's start with Charlotte. We just had Jeff. as some really big news and announcement about the Tour Championships. We'll say reclaiming what most thought was the original Tour Championship date weekend. At least I know us on the media side, that was what I was factoring for, was that particular weekend. So it's on that weekend, and it's in Charlotte, a disc golf mecca, rightfully named, host to AM Worlds last year, pro combined AM Worlds in 2012, and just such a long
97.
history. Yeah, 97 and probably years before that.
Yep.
Pretty incredible, to have the opportunity to go there. Maybe a future site for disc golf pro tour events on top of it. But Charlotte, clearly your where you grew up, where you learned to play golf. It's got to be pretty cool to go back there, isn't it?
Oh, of course. We're so excited. The talk in Charlotte has been since we hosted the Worlds in 2012. We really haven't had a big tour event come through Charlotte. That year, we had an A tier, which some people played just to get ready for Worlds. The year before, there was the Carolina Clash, which was a national tour. But since then, we really haven't had the pro field in. We kind of get that taste because Rock Hill is only 30 minutes away from Charlotte, and a ton of people from Charlotte volunteer for that event. So we kind of take a little bit of claim, or not claim, but we accept a lot of responsibility, and we help out a lot at that tournament, So like, as the Charlotte Disc Golf Club, we're very proud of disc golf. We're very proud of that title of being like one of the meccas of the sport. And it's really cool to be able to tell people about disc golf in Charlotte and be able to say, yeah, like, we're one of the big cities in the world. And so, it only makes sense that we actually have a tour event that comes through there. Obviously, it's difficult just because of the regional proximity to Rock Hill to have multiple events in that same area. But we've got the courses, we've got the club, and we've got the excitement. And on top of that, Charlotte's one of the fastest growing cities in the country. And the culture is constantly getting more vivid, and the community is just in all ways it's improving, and Charlotte's a very enticing, attractive city, and I think that a lot of people are going to enjoy coming and playing not just Hornets Nest, but all the courses that we have in the area.
Well, and I was going to follow that up by talking about Hornets Nest specifically. We did finally get around to mentioning exactly where it was going to be, and there's a lot of great courses to choose from out there, obviously, as it's hosted so many great events. But did I understand correctly? Hornets Nest has a little bit of a renovation, or a little bit of some alterations made in the last couple of years, or no?
Yeah. We had to change the course because we had an NFL Play 60 play course, or whatever you call it. This is the Play 60s. Come through, and they used up half of our fairway on hole 2, which was like the only hole that was open in Charlotte, and it was 432 feet, and it was like a really cool hole to have when Charlotte is otherwise so tightly wooded. So we had to change hole 1. We obviously had to change hole 2, and then we had to come up with a new way to direct back to hole 3, and so we had to make some changes. We added a very wooded hole 1, and a hole 2 that goes over a little island or over water to an island that we can only use in tournaments because the parks were concerned with people going in and fishing for discs, and there's I think there's like water lines in there. They don't want anyone to break or stuff like that. So we can't have a permanent hole there, but that most likely will be there for the Disc Golf Pro Tour finale. So yeah, there's been some changes to the course, and that was just the front 9. The back 9, we lost a lot of signature holes, like the Gauntlet, which was like a really well-known, super tight tunnel. There's only 239 feet, I think. Coincidentally, it's my only ace at Hornets Nest, and that's now gone. And a lot of other holes had to change just because this big grassway was widened by, I believe, 60 feet because it was the like Piedmont Electric, I think, owns that part of the course, and so they came in and they had to do some adjustments to their pipeline, and so we had to make some adjustments to the back 9 as well. And the result is we had a pretty well distinguished professional level short course at Hornets Nest Original, and then a long par 70, like professional, like really difficult course, the Charlotte's Web. And now we kind of have like a course that really is similar with the short and the long. Like they share a lot of the same holes, whereas the Hornet's Nest and Web did the same thing, but there was a little bit more branching off. Now it's pretty much just like the course it takes you through the same 18 tracks. It's just there's some short tees and some short baskets, but I kind of like the combination of making the best possible layout. I don't always think that you should play the longest course just because the pros are coming through, and I think that sometimes a shorter hole is better for scoring separation, and sometimes it's just a better hole in general. And I think that we're gonna definitely try to implement some of that.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I hope that they find maybe to carve out a little bit of room for another 239 footer for you to possibly rack up another ace.
We'll see. I mean, we got hole 9. It's inside 200 feet, but it's like 12 or 13 feet off the ground. So that really it's an infamous hole. It's just like right there in front of you, but it's just like you're looking up like this. Even me, I have to like get on my tippy toes to get my disc out of the basket. So
now,
my favorite story with that hole was when we had the Carolina Clash in 2011. I'm finishing the course about halfway across the course, and I see Josh Anthon like sprinting down the road, and I'm like, why is Josh Anthon running right now? Like where could he possibly be in a hurry for? Like what's he doing? So hey Josh, what's up? And he's like, hey, Brad Hammock's finishing the course on hole 9. I gotta go see him get his disc out of the basket. I was like, no. Oh no.
Ouch. Savage.
If you guys don't know Brad Hammock's a 5-time Masters World Champion. That's like 5'6", like maybe 5'5". So
is he even that? No, he's not even that tall. I bet. Like
he's a shorty.
Yeah, June bug, and he's got I'd say 5'3", probably 5'3", 5'4", and he's just a little guy.
Thuggy got him with that one, man. That tripped me up.
So just as you mentioned, when I think about the USDGC, I think about the players' hospitality area. I think of Chuck, and I think of just the entire crew over there. As you said, they stake claim to having a part of the USDGC, to be an integral part of it, to make it so successful, and there's so much pride in that Charlotte Disc Golf Club, as there should be, because of the tremendous courses, the amazing events that have taken place, the very long history. What do you expect to see or have our players experience now when we're back in Charlotte? What is the club how are they gonna bring it, I guess, is what I'm really asking.
Well, you're going to get a lot of motivation from the people that are involved with the club that have wanted to have the pros here. I think that one of the things that you do see over time is when an event is in the same area every single year, the excitement kind of dissipates a bit. Some places it doesn't, but sometimes it does, just because like the club knows that these guys are going to be here the next year. We don't know if the Disc Golf Pro Tour finale is going to be in Charlotte again next year, and we haven't had the tour event in 7 years. So you're going to get excitement. You're going to feel that. And even though we do bring that excitement to Rock Hill, there's just a little bit more special feel, I think, having people, the tour guys in Charlotte. And then, so I think that you're going to get that Southern hospitality. I think that you're going to get that really nice treatment and the above and beyond execution. Plus, the Disc Golf Pro Tour is under new management, and these guys are looking forward to running the best possible Disc Golf Pro Tour show that they can. So they're going to do their best. We're going to do our best. And so there's not going to be anything, there's not going to be any reservation, like it's as good as the event can possibly be. That event will be delivered in that way.
Yeah, and again, for a little bit for the geography, for most people that maybe haven't had the chance to get down to a place like Rock Hill for the USDGC, most of our competitors, anyone that's flying to the USDGC, will almost for sure fly into Charlotte, and then it's just really, one interstate down, 25, 30 minutes or so to go from Charlotte to get down to Rock Hill. So that's why there is so much of that synergy that always kind of takes place with Charlotte and Rock Hill, as Germs mentioned. And so staying right in Charlotte, for this event is, with so many options, so many courses to play, so much hospitality, it's going to be really awesome to to kind of take over that area, you know, with that being in Augusta and the USDGC. I mean, quite a great little pocket to wrap up our season.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's interesting that now the USDGC is not the final event on tour, because for years I'd always hear these pitches for a big event after the USDGC. I want to run an A tier, because at the time that was kind of like an A tier was a big deal. Now I feel like it's kind of a tour filler in some ways. No disrespect to A tiers, but like the events that we must play are the Disc Golf Pro Tours and the National Tours, and those make up enough of our tour now that we can play a full season full of events with Disc Golf Pro Tours, National Tours, and of course majors. But like at the time, like running an A tier was like a big deal, and it still kind of is. But like, man, I want to run an A tier right after the USDGC, and my response was always like, it's not going to really work. Like you want to have those top players of that tournament. I understand that, and it'd be great. But honestly, everyone brings 100% at US, and they leave it there on the field, and then they go home, and then they rest, and they get ready for Las Vegas, in February. And but now it's not that way anymore. Now that we've got the National Tour finale after US, the Disc Golf Pro Tour finale after US, people are kind of having to maintain that stamina just a little bit longer, and it does open the door for a big event continued after US in this area in the Southeast, specifically in Charlotte. So
yeah,
and we used to do this back before I even started playing disc golf with the fall finale that was run by Disc Landing, and that was in Charlotte, and that was a really big event that brought all the big names to Charlotte before US, and that event just kind of went away when Disc Landing went away, I believe. Again, before I started playing back in 06, so I only know the history of it, but never got to experience it myself. So it's exciting to see that it's coming back to Charlotte.
Well, and I think what's interesting is, will we get, now that box has been open, or that can of worms has been open, will we ever get back before the USDGC to kind of wrapping it up and making USDGC truly being the final big event? Because like we just said, the National Tour wraps up the weekend after at the Hall of Fame Classic, and then the Pro Tour wraps up. And I know in previous conversations with Steve Dodge, he'd love to have the Pro Tour wrapping up in September if possible. But
yeah,
I feel like we're just truly running out of weekends. And that's why we've pushed into October. And is it going to continue to push even deeper?
It very well could. It very well could. I mean, it's important to give the touring players some rest time. I don't know if we necessarily need from mid-October to all the way to February, because if you...
Germ, you seem to have locked up on us a little bit, and we think it's...
I'm sorry. Okay. What was the last thing you heard?
It was like 20 minutes ago.
No, you were saying that you don't know if the pros necessarily need from October to February.
Yeah, the weather stays warm enough. We have the weather to push events into November, but we still do need like December and January and then February. And I don't think anyone wants the season to go any longer. But do your research. Like, look at the event schedule for 2008. Look at like how many events there were in November. And look at how many events are every week in November now.
Yeah.
I mean, you're running out of time to be able to host big events, because there are events that are grandfathered into this weekend. It has to be the third weekend in September every year. And, it's harder and harder and harder to introduce new tour events. So I don't see it changing and going back. I thought it used to be pretty cool when the National Tour finale wrapped up at the USDGC and that event counted for the National Tour. I thought it was a cool way to end the major season and the National Tour season at the same time. But they went away from doing that, I believe, like 7 or 8 years ago. So I don't really think they'll continue doing that or go back to that anytime in the future. But
yeah, I'm a big advocate of having a week off after our majors in general. Like, you can run, they could bring 8 tiers, but just not a Pro Tour or a National Tour event. And I mean, if someone wants to run an 8 tier and these guys want to like grind away, that's their choice. But as you said, the big ones that you feel you have to hit, the National Tours and the Pro Tours, I feel like the majors should have kind of maybe a week on each side, just have that buffer, and let an A tier or a big B tier or something, let them run wild. Personally,
I remember. I think it was 2015. I don't know if I have the year right, but I think it was 2015. We went major, national tour, major, and like it was either 4 or 5 week span, and it was something just insane. And I remember talking to another player who had a sports therapist or psychologist, and he was relaying that his schedule to the psychologist, and the guy was just like, "What? Like that's not possible for your body to mentally and physically withstand that amount of that level of play, you know, that close and that short of a time range. Like that's unrealistic."
Unless you're Paul McBeth, and then you just win them all that year. If it was 2015,
yeah,
right?
but that's kind of the point too. Is that like what an advantage? I mean, obviously Paul put himself in that position by practicing and being the best to win there. But like, let's say you're hurt. You know, like had I been hurt then, I would have lost 3 majors and a national tour because I couldn't stand and walk, just because it was too close of a proximity of time. You just cannot put 3 majors in the matter of a 5-week span because of not just for that, but like one player is playing well now, he might not be playing that well in 3 months. You know, you got to spread these things out over the course of a year, in my opinion.
Yeah, and getting back, I want to give a shout out. I know Steve Mango was one of those gentlemen that said, "Hey, let's try and run an A tier right after the USDGC." We're already, you know, somewhat in that proximity. We're going to have a ton of added cash. And I remember him coming to me, you know, kind of even personally, just saying, "Okay, how do I get all the top players here? I'm going to add cash and we're going to have a great course." And I remember telling him that might not be enough anymore. People are shutting down at USDGC, and they're kind of closing the book on their year at that point. And we had Paul Ulibarri, and maybe you last year, telling us, like, I think it was more Yuli, was like, I don't even know if I care about, you know, this NT that's coming up after USDGC. I'm exhausted. I'm not going to go practice. I'll go out and throw discs, and whatever happens, happens.
How many people said that about Delaware? I mean, Delaware's an amazing tournament, the amazing course, but people were just zonked out. Like, that's, you know, what a quick turnaround, long drive, and then the tournament's starting on Friday. You know, you just finished.
Well, and it would be one thing, I'll say this, and this is a compliment to Delaware. It would be one thing if you were going to another, we'll say, if you were going to play like a memorial type course right after Worlds in this case, where you're like, okay, these shots are relatively basic, you know, to oversimplify it a little bit. But when you go from Worlds to then Delaware and play possibly the most grueling course of the entire year, it's like, that's, you know, that's
just mean.
It is. That's what it felt like.
Torturing us.
So it was pretty
Kind of
crazy.
remind me of what we were doing when we're starting the season off at Las Vegas. We're playing on 3 golf courses where you're throwing long, hard shots, and then you go Thursday through Sunday, and then the Memorial started on Wednesday.
Yeah.
You had to drive 6 hours from Las Vegas to the Memorial. You had, let's say you left Sunday night, you'd have Monday and Tuesday to practice 2 courses, and just a few years ago, if you remember, we were practicing 3 courses, and we had 2 days to do it and a 6-hour drive. After just playing 4 rounds consecutively, it was a 13-day straight stretch where you played 6 courses and 8 tournament rounds in 13 days.
Welcome to the beginning of the tour.
Yeah. I mean,
and the good thing, the Memorial went to a Thursday through Sunday schedule this year. It made a big difference. The players had 1 day to rest, which is huge. And then they also, I mean, for the, I think, second or third consecutive year, we are not playing Fiesta Lakes anymore. So those 2 changes really helped with just our bodies being able to recover a little bit, which is a very important thing.
We've been big advocates here in general of just having everything but majors be 3 days. NTs, Pro Tours, they should all be 3 days, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then let the majors be 4 days and Worlds be 5. Like, to me, that feels like a really consistent, good way to do it. Letting certain events expand into 4 days, I think it just gets a little hairy. I would prefer if all the quote-unquote big events were 3 days and then most majors 4 days.
Yeah, I would drive that point home. I'll ask for your opinion in a second, and I know this even goes against Green Mountain, next weekend. He's got that 4 days. Originally Vibram was 4 days this year. I think Ledgestone wants to be 4 days yet again. I can't say it enough. I think just from a consistency standpoint for media, for spectators, and for players, NT, A-tier, Pro Tours, all 3 days. Majors 4. Worlds can be 5 or 5.5. Germ, how do you feel about that?
Hold on, I gotta take this call from Zach Melton. Hey Zach, what do you think about 3-day tournaments instead of 4-day tournaments? He says I think they're super dumb. You're actually on Smashbox right now. He said Terry. All right, you gotta go. I'm actually on Smashbox. Bye. He thinks it's super dumb. So sorry. No, I think that I like what you're doing for consistency purposes. I don't really think it makes that big of a difference for spectators. No, you cannot talk right now, Zach. Stop calling me.
We've got a firm no Melton policy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, dude, what are you doing? I think he's probably at the door and he hears me. He's literally inside the house right now, so that was probably a planned prank. But I think, man, honestly, I don't love it because I think certain tournaments like Beaver State Fling, which has always been a 3-day tournament, I think it should be 4 days. I don't like the idea of playing the East Course and the West Course each in 1 day on Saturday every year.
Okay, so I'd be okay if that just went to 3 rounds.
Yeah,
I'd be fine with it
rounds.
going 3 rounds as long as it was East, West, East. I don't want to play West twice. that course, that's just a personal problem. Okay, that's the reason I haven't cashed that tournament in 2 years. But no, I think in general, I was really sad to see from my couch. But I was really sad to see that MVP went to 3 rounds. I really enjoyed when they. Initially, it was 4 rounds. Then they went to 3 rounds for a few years, and then the last couple of years, it's been 4 again. And a course like that, I want to play it 4 times. I just really, really, really. Is it Zach Melton?
Yeah, Zach's calling me.
Are you kidding me? Are you serious? What a jerk! Oh God.
I really want to talk to him though. Can we patch him in instead?
No.
Damn it.
No, please do not satisfy.
No.
Don't do it. But I don't. I mean, like for media purposes, like I mean, is that not a good thing for them to have more rounds and more videos and more views?
Possibly. It all depends on how the tour goes.
As spectators, to have more rounds of disc golf to watch, I feel like.
But it stretches out your volunteers. It stretches out all of your expenses for everybody.
Logistical for the tournament end, yeah, it makes sense. But for the players, it sometimes makes sense. But
so
not
you'd
always.
like to play more golf and possibly not win any more money. That sounds good to you. Because
I think it depends on it really depends on the event. Like it depends on the kind of course that it is. No more. Is he calling me again?
Now he's not Facebook calling me. He's calling me on my regular number. Okay, and again, I love hearing your perspective. We're clearly in the minority. I've had a few of these conversations with Steve and a little bit now maybe with Jeff, and Nate Heinel just the other day said he'd like to see Ledgestone be 4 days again. And I get it because he's got 2 really good courses that equally contrast each other, being Eureka and Northwood. And I understand that. And the city would love to have
GMC. Those 2 courses. I don't want to place more emphasis on the Woods course or the Open course. They're both excellent courses. I don't want to do anything like we do up in Beaver State Fling and have to play both courses in the same day. I love being able to play that tournament in 4 rounds.
This is a little different, but I would love, if they're going to do 4 rounds, I'd love to see a cut.
Yeah.
Like
yes.
4th day,
cut it down
to 50 people. Absolutely. Or whatever, 56 or whatever the cut line is, the cash line, and then spread it out a little bit. If you're going if you want a 4-round event, make a cut. But I
think I totally agree with that 100%. I think that 4th round shouldn't be the entire field. The people that aren't contenders, that aren't within, as golf does it, within 10 strokes or the certain number of places. You know, I definitely think that, you know, cutting at the cash line in that last day, like everyone that's playing, you know that you're cashing, go for it, you know?
Okay.
I agree.
So a question on the board with kind of what you were just referencing. I think I have the answer, but you are then planning to play GMC next weekend. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
I actually, yeah, I'm playing GMC as well. I'm just trying to get as much tournament practice as I can to get back into the swing of things before US, and which starts on my birthday, October 2nd.
Oh, that's
Full name drop. By the way,
let me see if that's
Terry
on my
came
calendar.
to my 30th birthday party 3 years ago.
I did.
We had
Oh
a
my
really
gosh.
sweet party. It was a great shindig. Had a lot of really beautiful people show up. Terry brought his camera.
Yep.
Took a ton of pictures.
So
Great
many
night.
good pictures.
A night in my life I'll probably never forget, except it's easier to forget because I've never seen these pictures. Can we start an online GoFundMe to pay Terry to give me these pictures so I can see my 30th birthday party? Can somebody please hook it up?
I think I got as far one day as actually even backing them up online. So they're officially online somewhere, which is even better.
I mean,
I've already committed to Zach, who's reached out now. He is going to headline our after show, which should also be pretty exciting.
Stop it.
I think we got to get to that soon. But no, Nantucket this weekend. Let's touch on that. I'm super excited. I know tons of our players are, but yet we have this weird pull of people going international to Canada. Nantucket, give everyone a...
Let's just stop. That's not international.
I know. It technically is, I understand, but it feels weird.
It's like going into the hat. Like, it's just, they're playing up in my hairline.
It's getting far up there.
I know. I was just going to say how that drive's getting longer every year then. So
hey, that was a good one. That was a good one.
But Nantucket this weekend, clearly just so much fun. I'm honored to have a little piece of it to be able to come and film. But what a clinic, I think, on Thursday. Skins match on Friday. 2 rounds of regular, we'll say, stroke play golf on Saturday. And then the Raz round?
Dorian needs to chill out, and then all that will happen.
I saw. So we're talking 80% chance of rain on Friday and 90% chance of rain on Saturday. What's the contingency plan?
We were talking about that today. Todd was over here at the house, and we were just kind of discussing, like, what should we maybe do in case of worst case scenario. There's not a plan yet. We don't really know. But, you know, we're just... The thing that's kind of dicey is that the ferries aren't going to be running if the winds are too high. I think it's like 30 to 35 mile an hour cutoff. And if that's the case, then people cannot get to Nantucket Island from Hyannis, from mainland. And so that's a concern that we're having right now too.
Yes. Did Dorian take you? All right. Sounds like we're trying to reconnect here. I'm guessing that actually Zach ran over and cut his internet cable.
Zach unplugged the router. Like, I'm done with him.
All right. But no, that is a very interesting point. I think Jordan Castro's on the board, ready to tell me he's picking me up in Boston. Right, Jordan? Wink, wink. I'm heading over to Boston Thursday morning, or mid-afternoon, I should say. And then we would it's about 2 hours down to Hyannis, and then you hop on either a high-speed or a regular speed ferry, 1 or 2 hours, and you go out to the island. And that's Thursday, where I think we're going to be relatively safe. But coming back off the island, whether it's Sunday or Monday or Tuesday or whatever day that's going to be for our players, I guess I did not think about the implications there of the weather. I would hate to be stranded on Nantucket.
Really? You'd hate to be stranded on Nantucket Island?
No, but that's a legitimate concern in the fact that a lot of players on Saturday morning have to take like the 6 a.m. ferry ride over if you're not spending the night there. Saturday or Sunday, AM side plays on Sunday. You try to get that 6 a.m. ferry to then bring you over. Yeah. Okay. So that's a very legitimate a legitimate concern. So we'll see what the plan is going to be. Maybe it's going to be a reduced field.
Just like a 27-person field.
Yeah. I could see something like that happening. Well, it looks like we've lost Big Germ for now, but I'll get plenty of him for all of us this weekend, and then some. So I'll report back.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that he's feeling better. I'm really glad. Of course. I'm glad to hear that he's back on the mend and he's going to be able to be playing these events that he has not been able to participate in for a few months, because the tour is definitely a little bit lacking without a Jeremy Colling.
Oh.
It's lacking a little personality.
Yeah, that's a word. Okay, so Germ has, I think, attempted to try and Skype back in, but there's probably some kind of legitimate internet connectivity issue that's going on, so I apologize if it's going back and forth. I see Chris Cobb is out on the board. Speaking of tournaments this weekend, I think he's running the Jerry along with a few other Arizonians. I think that sounds like the appropriate term, and I hope that they have a good time. Bring your multi-chain basket up to that great event. I know it's a favorite of the area and the surrounding area that's incredibly difficult to get into because it's so sought after to play in it. So have fun, everyone, over at the Jerry.
The Jerry.
All right, now looks like we might have Big Germ back.
He's kind of back, yeah. There he goes.
Oh man, I don't know what's going on. I'm now using my phone's data.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll keep it
internet on the island, huh?
Remember that conversation we had on the island a couple years ago when you were rolling around with one of those Samsung 9s that were killing everybody on planes? Remember that?
The Note 4, the Note 7.
Whatever it was. Yeah. You still have that?
No, I got the Note 8.
And that creates a bigger explosion.
Yeah. That's what I like to good on you. Okay, so we were talking, though, it could be a legitimate challenge with, depending on how the storms are, the winds and all that stuff. Is there a conversation about just how close that's getting? I mean, I know we just mentioned the rain, but help people with the geography there on the East Coast. With the storm
Nantucket is in Massachusetts, which is north of the Bahamas and Florida. So I don't know what you want me to tell you.
I'm just thinking like
a hurricane spins in a furious cycle of wind and rain, and it produces a lot of problems for people that live on coastal areas. So Nantucket is a coastal area. And it looks like...
I'm looking at Friday and Saturday's weather. Friday, you're looking at a 60% chance of precipitation with 26-mile-an-hour winds. Saturday, 90% with 33-mile-an-hour winds. So you're getting close to that.
Yeah, that cutoff.
That cutoff. That could be. This could definitely be a unique situation that I have not heard of in disc golf as a reason to cancel. That people can't just physically get to an island on the course.
I know, it's kind of crazy.
What's the weather like right now there, Germ?
The weather's fine. Actually, today was one of the more beautiful days of the year I've had. The weather outside was beautiful. Sat on the beach and got a sunburn. So it's nice right now. It rained a little bit last night, but I don't think that had anything to do with Dorian. But the next couple of days, we're like just crossing our fingers that, hurricanes are known to change course, and after they hit the land and sometimes they pick up speed and get more ferocious. So, we're just hoping that that does not happen. And, we'd love to play uninterrupted disc golf this weekend and be able to have everybody here and have you out here filming and, be able to really just enjoy a good weekend of disc golf with all these festivities that are lined up. And the Raz Round is one of the most fun, unique moments of disc golf. And I call it a moment because it's only 3 holes long, but it's, it really captures a spirit of the game that you don't really see anywhere else. Maybe hole 17 at the Waste Management and on the PGA Tour. But, we don't have that in disc golf. Everything is always about hush, hush. Don't talk while we're throwing. This is who can we be the loudest for when they're throwing? How can we distract this person? Like, how can we get in this person's head? And everything, anything is fair game.
Now, did you partake of any of the live coverage or post-production coverage from this last weekend and saw some of the festivities and the rowdiness over at Maple Hill? Did you hear any of that?
I saw it. Yeah, Henry Chill just recorded the video of the pie eating contest and sent it to me, and it was really it was touching.
It was. I was going to bring that up with you. It was dubbed the Jeremy Colling pie eating contest. That is what Steve Dodge called it. So it was
like,
really touching.
Legitimately, like it made me like really, really happy, but also like I'm not even gonna lie, I got a little emotional about it. Just like A, not being there, and B, just feeling that kind of love from all the way up north in Massachusetts while I was down there in Charlotte was a good moment for me.
Well, I'm hoping that we're going to see all of the action this weekend unfold as planned. Like I said, clinic on Thursday, skins match, 8-hole skins match, I think is what it is, or is it 9? I think it's 8. It's typically, I think, 8
I can't
holes.
remember.
Yeah, 8-hole skins match, which I think has $2,000 up for grabs, and then a great tournament, which I believe has $10,000 added to it as a B tier, which of course no other B tier in the world does. And then after that, the $1,000 Raz round, winner take all, and then the caddy of the winner of the Raz round also takes home a cool $100. Yeah, plus some unforgettable memories for sure.
I mean, it's like a tournament that's kind of been a little bit of a secret, but the secret's no longer a secret. I mean, everybody knows if you're not going to Canada and playing a great tournament up there, you're probably going to try to get into this event. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. The camaraderie is amazing, and it certainly, just to be up here for a week-long tournament and only play one day of disc golf is it's pretty cool. Everyone that comes to Nantucket leaves a better person and with some great memories.
Yeah, and speaking of great memories, quick shout out. Just a couple days ago, celebrating their 1-year anniversary, were Eric and Tina Oakley, who were married the day before the tournament there in Nantucket. Robert McCall was the official for it. It was a very, very amazing moment and a lot of fun last year.
I was the official DJ for that wedding, so I was. No,
I guess you were.
I DJ'd the wedding with Ultimate Ear Mega Boom speakers, 2 of them.
Yeah,
2 of them. Ooh, fancy.
I remember some of that.
I'm actually staying in the room that they were staying in last year.
Okay, we're gonna end it there. Smashbox is ready to call it. Yuck. Okay. I believe also in other just kind of random cool news, Evelina Salonen celebrates her birthday today. I saw that on Facebook and wanted to give her a shout out along with all her other birthdays. But all right, Big Germ, anything else before we let you go?
Oh man, just happy to be walking around again. It's been awesome watching everyone else play, but I'm sick and tired of seeing Paul Macbeth win. So hopefully we can get back on the I don't know, the train here. I haven't had a win since Waco 2018, so I'm thinking either taking down GMC or USDGC would make me. I'd be happy with that,
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, is it really any coincidence that kind of since you've been off the tour, he's dominated?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want to call it a coincidence, but
he had to strike while he had the opportunity. Really, if you think about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying. I think everyone's been happy. The fans have been sad that I've been home. Many of them cry a lot, and the players are happy that I'm home because they don't have to worry about me just winning everything all the time. So,
if you listen to the undertone of the interview with Macbeth, at one point when I was asking about the ice in his veins and canning 45-footers, death putts, and holding off an 1100 rated double G who's charging, it really was, the tone behind that was, thank God Germ's not here.
But is that for play? Or just thank God Germ's not here?
I mean, yeah.
Both valid questions. I mean, that's, think about how good he's playing. I don't want to say it's a better season than 2015. I don't know if we'll ever see a better season than 2015. But I think he might be playing better than he played in 2015. And in back-to-back tournaments, he's won for shooting 1100 rated round. And I'm sure that some of his other wins this year have been with players shooting 1,100 rated rounds in the event. That's something that somebody should dig deep into and come up with some research there, because typically you see someone shoot 1,100 rated round, they're going to win.
Mm-hmm.
So it's he's on another level right now. His rating is going to go to 1060. I mean, it's just it's astonishing.
I think if he takes down GMC and USDGC, it's the greatest year. It's better than 2015. He's calling it, Melton's calling again. I think even if he takes top 3 at GMC and wins USDGC, you almost have to consider it one of the greatest years of ever. I mean, it's going to be so hard because those are really the 2 big ones that are coming up yet for him. And he's got Canadian Nationals this weekend that I know he's playing. So we'll see. I mean, he's.
I think the Macbeth Climo argument is more valid than the LeBron James Michael Jordan argument. I think that the difference in titles between Climo and Macbeth is less important than it is for LeBron. If LeBron, I know that we're not even talking about basketball here, but if like LeBron gets the 6 titles, I think that he takes over MJ. But that 6 number is very important for LeBron. Mm-hmm. 12 is not important for Paul because I don't think 12 is reachable. Now, of course, he'll probably take that as motivation and go out and win 13. But I think that number isn't as important. I think that Macbeth's legacy has already been proven through this stretch of the last decade as one of the most dominant decades we've seen from an individual. And it's been incredible to be a player in that era and see it firsthand, you know. And I'm a huge fan. He's an incredible athlete and a promoter of the sport, like one of the best faces of the sport we've ever had.
Yeah, and I think that is something that's clearly not on paper for all of us to experience, but even talking to someone like a Nico LaCastro or a Drew Gibson, both in the last few days, talking to them about just what Paul helps do to elevate the entire sport. And I know that's something that he's very passionate about as well, is helping, helping the entire sport.
Try to lift all the players.
Exactly. And it's just incredible. So, all right, Big Germ. Well, we're going to cut you loose. We appreciate the insight. We're glad to hear that you're feeling better. Looking forward to running into you in a couple of days over there in Nantucket. And it should be pretty exciting for you to be able to close out the year. Hopefully you remain healthy and good to go for these last few big events.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Charlotte's really excited. Can't wait to see you guys there in mid-October.
All right, buddy. We'll see you in a
Looking
couple
forward to
days. Take care.
See ya.
All right, Big Germ giving us some insight from the Charlotte Club, one of the disc golf meccas. And when we talk about a mecca, I think there's a few that always come to mind.
Emporia, Charlotte. Back in our day, as funny as it was, Mobile, Alabama, because they had like 6 courses all in one city, and we were like, "Oh my God, 6 courses in one city!" And that has kind of gone away.
That's not quite as impressive
it's not
as it
nearly
used
as
to
impressive
be.
as it used to
Twin
be.
Cities is definitely an area that you would talk about, especially when you have the caliber of courses that are there, the variety of courses. So you would have to put them in.
You could almost say Chicagoland. In that they have. It's a little bit spread out, but they got some.
I would disagree.
They have
with
a
that.
lot of courses there.
Yeah,
They're not extremely. They're not sought after courses, but as far as volume, it's not nearly what Twin Cities is. I don't know if anybody can come close to what the Twin Cities have.
And then other meccas, maybe some Dallas Fort Worth, Texas area might come to mind. Maybe a Portland area might come to mind, but definitely Charlotte is one that's always in that mention for sure. So very cool to
Thunder
see.
Schultz says Mobile is still a mecca. So there, I'm going to believe a Schultz.
That's great. I'd love someone to tell me, other than a what's the tour, Southern National Tour event down there. Tell me the last time big events or a big organization rolled through there that helped solidify that mecca terminology.
Yeah, but that's not, I mean, unfortunately, that's not the fault of the area. That could be, and I don't know, but that could be more so a fault of the club in that there is not a solidifying club to organize a big event. That's not to take away that they still have, X amount of courses. I don't even know what they have these days that are all pretty stellar courses. So if you know the area and you think, wow, they've got like 8 world-class courses here, but nobody knows about it because nobody can organize an event, or we'll say a huge event.
Huge being, I think, the key word there. And
agreed, and that helps solidify an area having that.
And Philip, and by no means, I am not taking any shots here at Mobile. You guys mentioned the City of Mobile Championships. You're looking at 2 clowns that were at like numbers 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 of
Something
the
like
City
that,
of Mobile,
yeah.
or the 5th back in like the late 90s. So we're familiar with the event and so many of the superstars that were down there of yesterdecade, namely. So it's not that we're dismissing it, but when I think Mecca, I think the biggest tour stops, a Kansas City comes to mind as well, where they've got great courses, they've got good club involvement, they have small and large scale events, and then they bring the largest of the large there in a national tour, a pro tour, and or a major or majors. I mean, how many worlds have been held in Kansas City area in the last 20 years? 6, 8? Okay, maybe 6 different worlds have been held there in the last 25 years. That's what I think of. And I'm not dismissing the great golf that could be found in Mobile, but just a sheer number of courses and then maybe an A tier along with it, I don't know if that's what I deem quite Mecca title. All right, we're going to close it out, though, and everybody can argue. Represent, tell us where you're from and why your area is the greatest. I would love to hear it out here on the board. And we can all have a good stout argument about that as to what everybody thinks. I want to go ahead and I want to thank, of course, Jeff Spring for giving us some more details about going over to Charlotte. Also, the great news about the Green Mountain Championships, how they've got the new title sponsor and presenting sponsor to accompany Discraft. They've got grip equipment on board, so congratulations to them and that event over at Smuggler's Notch. Looking forward to seeing that one unfold. I'd like to thank Dynamite for checking in with us. It's been a few weeks, but it's so great to have him and his insights as he's, kind of been on the sideline just a little bit, literally and figuratively. And then also Big Germ, Jeremy Coling, really driving home the point how Charlotte is the right place for the Pro Tour to be and what we can expect to see coming up in Nantucket. For Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, along with Johnny V, that's been podcast 263. Stick around for the after show. We'll give away some free stuff. We know you all love that. We love our Patreon subscribers. We'll see you then when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 263 After Show, bringing you all of the latest and greatest undocumented gossip and news and information.
Undocumented gossip?
Well, there's some that's documented that I have actual notes for. Some emails, maybe a few text messages, not to be shared. And then there's other stuff that, well, I think we could just make up.
Well, we make up a lot of stuff.
But we're seriously glad you guys could join us as we're closing out the regular show. We talked to Big Germ. And maybe one of the side conversations in talking to Big Germ, we referenced that Charlotte being such a hot spot for disc golf and a mecca, as we were calling it. I see some people on the board talking about where they're representing and the golf that gets played. And like you were saying, and I guess just to take that one point further, back in the late 90s, and I'll use Wisconsin as a reference point, I want to say it was 2001, me and a friend were putting in Wisconsin's 50th disc golf course. And I always think roughly from 1976, which some would argue is, when the beginning of disc golf in its, basket stage, 1976 to 2001, I always think about that 25-year period. Wisconsin specifically had put in 50 disc golf courses. Sussex, Wisconsin was one that me and Todd Kozlenser had worked on. So that's obviously, you do some math there. That's 2 courses per year for the 25 years. And then I fast forwarded to, I remember thinking back to 2016, so 15 years later, when I had last run the numbers, in Wisconsin, we had grown from 50 courses to nearly 300 courses, maybe 250, 275, whatever the number was. It's just incredible to think about the growth and really how blessed and fortunate we are in Wisconsin and in general in the Midwest. You saw very similar growth in Minnesota, in Michigan, in Iowa, in Illinois, maybe not quite as much in Indiana, but to have so much growth and so many courses, and then to think there's states that I guess I haven't looked at a map, so maybe I shouldn't totally misspeak, but there's states that I believe probably don't even have 50 courses yet. And of course, their size. I don't expect Rhode Island to have 50 courses. I don't expect Hawaii, for instance, to have 50 courses yet.
Something like a Montana either. I mean, where you have like 4 like decent sized cities and
yeah,
so much just
of course I understand that, but I think about just how blessed we are in the Midwest and the opportunities that we have to play. And then I think about we were talking about Mobile specifically, and when you and I had traveled there in 1998 spring break, 1999 spring break, because that's what the cool kids did. We didn't go get drunk on the beaches. We drove around the country and played disc golf courses, as many as we could find, looking them up in a little book, using an actual atlas to try and get from course to course. But to think like, oh my gosh, Mobile has 6 courses. Like, that's incredible.
We could spend 3 or 4 days there just playing courses.
Yeah, there's just so many courses there. And it was such an amazing thing. And now think about where you live today and how far you need to travel to hit 10 courses. And for many of you, I'm guessing, you could hit 10 courses within an hour of you. Well, if you're not, you're living in the wrong damn place. But it's incredible to think about the opportunities that are out there for us to be able to go out and play so many courses. And then if you really want a concentrated city, that's when you go to Charlotte. That's when you go to Raleigh, I believe, probably still has a ton of courses. That's when you go to the Twin Cities. Those are some of your best places to still go. Dallas, Fort Worth, that kind of thing. But then, of course, you think about San Francisco, not so much. New York City, of course, not so much.
It's funny because I don't consider Dallas Fort Worth a mecca.
I think that's because you're not familiar with going there and playing or being directly connected to anything there.
But that's part of it.
Personally,
I think that's part of it, though. Like as an argument for a mecca, it should be something that a ton of people know about. Like, hey, this is a place where everybody wants to get to. I don't hear people online talking about, yeah, man, I'm really excited to go to Dallas Fort Worth area. Like, you hear about people talk about the Harmony Bends, like, or your Rolling Ridge, or
but those are individual courses.
I know, but even the areas, people talk about going to Charlotte. People talk about going to the Kansas City area, which I know Emporia is kind of an offshoot of Kansas City, even though they've got their or their own environment, for the crying out loud. You hear people talk about going to the Smuggler's Notch and to Maple Hill again as its own course, but you still have got pyramids there. It doesn't feel like it's one of those sought after places. They might have, kind of like Mobile, a ton of great courses and in a small area that it just, I don't know. Like to me, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of online buzz about that particular area.
And again, I'll post it out to the board. Maybe I could very well be dead wrong about it. I also feel like there are plenty of people in Texas, and obviously a very large,
someone mentions,
very large, place we're speaking of, but some that you could play 40 or 50 or 60 tournaments in a year without ever leaving the borders of Texas. And tournaments don't necessarily define Mecca, in my opinion, but there are clearly enough opportunities there, which means you have the tournaments and you have the courses. But again, I guess I could certainly be wrong. Maybe and again, maybe someone could clarify.
Never saying or not saying they don't have great courses there. I just don't hear a lot of people talk about how they want to get there. Like, I'm on a lot of internet boards. I listen to a lot of people. That area just never seems to come up. And, people talk about the Twin Cities. People talk about, like I said, Charlotte. They talk about the Kansas City area. But you never hear anybody talk about, Dallas DFW. Occasionally you hear people talk about Austin. Like the Austin courses that, there's things there. You hear, a little bit about, the Arizona area, just because I think the Memorial is there. You hear people talk about how they want to play those courses. I wouldn't call it necessarily a Mecca, but I never hear people talk about the Dallas DFW area.
All right.
Yeah, Des Moines is one of those ones.
Zero String on the board says, I have well over 10 good courses within an hour of me, Dallas-Fort Worth. Veterans is super popular.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not, again, not saying that they're not good courses. I'm not saying it's not a good area. I'm saying the outside internet buzz doesn't seem to me, fulfill that selection of a particular area.
What if, following that logic, which you might be right on, what if there is, I was going to say pound for pound, what if there's person for person more play in that area than anywhere else, but they're not necessarily outsiders? Are you still able to give it that title then?
A Mecca? No.
Yeah, okay.
To me, a Mecca is a place where people
seek
out and try to go to, which is why I threw some of those individual courses out, like a Rolling Ridge, like a Harmony Bends, like an Idlewild. Like, it might not be an area Mecca, but it is a draw. It is a true pull. And you just, sorry Dallas and DFW, you don't hear people say how they're super excited to go to any particular course in that area. Like, I just don't see it. Now, there are, like I said, the Veterans Park. It's a classic course that we've known about for 20 plus years. There's just, again, I think Austin with, trying to think of the name of the big
Round Rock. No,
I'm not thinking Round Rock. There's one actually like
Twin Parks.
Maybe that's what it is. That people just, they talk about how they want to get there and play. Like, oh, it's one of those things I really want to hit. That to me is my definition of like a Mecca. Not necessarily. It just doesn't feel like Dallas has that signature course that everybody's dying to get to, and then the area around it is bonus. Like,
somebody from down there is going to kill you.
That's fine. I've played Dallas courses. I was lucky enough to go down there for work more than a couple years ago, like 12 years ago or so. And I got to play a course or two down there. And I don't even remember which ones I played. I brought one disc on my trip with me, and I just walked up and played around with, one mid-range and called it a night. I was like, cool, I got to play a course in Dallas. So,
all right. Well, we'll move on from that topic, and everyone can argue about where they do or don't like to go play from there. I'm going to reach out to Zach Melton and see if he really is available and is interested in joining us on the show. He also, I think I saw maybe on the Instagrams or something like that, as he was taking the ferry to head over from Hyannis over to Nantucket today, and we got that we got that confirmation from Big Germ, who said he was in the house with him. Someone asked on the board as to Milo and if you could go out and play those courses year round, and the answer is no. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe 27 of the 36 holes are in year-round. So I know we played as 2 separate 18s, an East and a West. 9 of the holes are really just there in a temporary configuration. Although they have cement pads and they have permanent anchors for baskets, they are not installed. They play near that parking lot on the back over there, the Genius hole. So I know 9, 11, 12, 11, 12, maybe even 13. A few of those are not permanent holes that are out there all the time. So if you went out and played it, it would look different, and you wouldn't have quite all of those same options. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe 27 of the 36 holes are typically there. So you could go out and play that, but not all of them. And I apologize. I saw something else on the board that I did want to address. And, of course, well, yeah, I'm going to move on. We were talking about good courses. A lot of people shouting out their favorite individual course.
Yeah,
but
there's
we'll
a ton of great courses.
Of course, those are all over the place. So
what have you got? I mean, while we wait for Zach, you said you had some things that maybe you wanted to discuss, or you had a list, or
I did. Oh, my undocumented list of gossip rumors. No, not all of them are discussable.
Oh.
I do want to quickly put in a plug, though. I will say this today. Thanks to a couple of commentators that came in from overseas, I was able to put the commentary track from Toonie onto the FPO rounds that were recorded and edited a couple months ago. As always, if there's one big challenge in disc golf, it's to find and secure and lock down and then get commentary added if it's going to be someone outside of myself. Sometimes finding a couple extra people and getting everyone's schedule coordinated. Well, it's happened. So I was able to release Toonie round 1 and just before we started the show, Toonie round 2 from earlier in the year over in Finland. So I invite everyone, and then tomorrow I'm going to release round 3. It's all rendered and ready to go. I just got to get it uploaded. So please go out and watch that. Also in other news from the FPO side as well, I finally got connected with both Holly Finley and Ellen Widboom, who were both on the final card at the Jacksonville Open from a few months ago. That's kind of a bonus event. I'll say I volunteered to run out and get covered. They didn't have any coverage of that A-tier final round, and so I volunteered myself to go cover that, and I was super glad to do so and then have coverage because of it, of the final round. And 2 out of the 4 players on the card were able to then sit down and do the commentary, which was also a little bit of a bonus.
Jason Porter says, Terry, do any women play USDGC?
That's a great question. Typically, USDGC is in a invitation, earning, with qualifying, qualifier situation. And in order to qualify at the biggest events that are deemed qualifying events, you have to be playing the exact same configuration as the MPO. So there have been times where a Masters field and or an FPO field have been playing the exact same configurations as the MPO field, and then they take the 5 lowest scores of people that haven't already qualified. So just hypothetically speaking, someone in MPO could finish in 13th, someone could finish in 15th, and then maybe the number 2 Masters player that's not already qualified, the number 2 Masters player, and then the top FPO player could all potentially qualify for the USDGC at a very special or unique event. That's in theory possible. It's not exactly commonplace, but that could happen. There's also the Monday qualifying where players are eligible. They show up at Rock Hill on Monday morning or Monday afternoon, and they usually, in the past, I think have paid $50 they're able to go out onto the course, and at any point, if they choose not to complete that round, or maybe they complete a round and post a score, they could come back and pay an additional $25 and then play another round. Or sometimes we'll see someone play
3 rounds.
Or we'll see someone start on, of course, hole number 1. They get to hole number 6. They're 9 over. And then right at that point, they say, oh, I'm going to go back to the beginning. I'm going to pay $25 and I'm going to start again. And then maybe they get to hole 17 and they're doing great. And they take a 12 on hole 17, or they take a 17. They then may go right over to hole number 1 and pay the $25 and start again. So that's how Monday qualifying works. And I think they usually take the 5 lowest scores from Monday qualifiers as well. Do women play, I think was the question. Yes, they have. Juliana Korver has famously played and has the highest finish I believe we've ever seen. She cashed in a very early version of the event. I forget if that was 2001, 2000,
that was back in the day when every state got a representative. It wasn't so much a qualifying. Every state got a representative to go, and your state could pick anybody. Usually you got, there was qualifiers that you could qualify for, but if your state didn't have one, like, you as the state coordinator got to pick someone.
You could choose a representative. Yeah, many years ago, the PDGA worked with the event, or the event worked with the PDGA to have the state coordinators could come up with a process. At first, it was a little bit loose, and it said, all right, whoever your state coordinator is can select anyone they want to come represent the state or to come then participate in the event. As it got a little tougher to get into the event, they said, your state coordinator can still do that. We'd really love to see it allotted or granted in some competitive form, though. We'd rather not you just pick someone. We'd rather have you organize something. It could be a mini series, or it could be a single day event, a single round. It could be whatever you want, but we'd love to see it be some type of competitive format that determines who gets to go. So we did that for a few years. And then at a certain point, when it got incredibly challenging to qualify and the spots got tighter, the USDGC said, yeah, the state coordinators no longer have that kind of pull, and they pulled back that option entirely. So we've kind of seen a few different iterations of that throughout the years. I don't believe that's still a thing at all anymore, is that a state coordinator has necessarily any say or pull
any exemptions
as to granting an exemption. I know here in Wisconsin, a gentleman who has played in the event, who loves going down to the event, Mike Newhouse is his name. He's an older school player like ourselves, I'll say. I know he made a post recently and said, hey, Wisconsin, let me know if that qualifier spot or that exemption spot is available. And I was like,
wow.
Thinking to myself, no, that hasn't been a thing for quite a few years.
10 years.
Maybe not 10, but it hasn't been a thing for a while.
It's been close, man. But anyway, as far as women playing, yes, we've had a few women play. Paige Pierce did qualify. They gave her an exemption for, I believe, her World Championship. Sometimes in the past, I think they've done it for USWDGC.
They have.
So we might still see, and I don't know if that's the case this year or not, but we might still see another. If Paige doesn't win USWDGC, we could see somebody else qualify.
Well, and
or
another
will they
thing,
give it to the second place for USWDGC?
Or another thing, they've granted positions to AM World winners, as sometimes, or granted exemptions is the word I'm looking for. They've granted them to that. I feel like the qualification procedures are always now changing.
A little fluid.
Yeah. Yeah, what we have seen a few years ago. Also, one of the other ways we've seen, I'll say Teresa Bellinger a number of years ago, she was granted or given an exemption because she was the listed TD for the Beaver State Fling. And so any national tour event that was a qualifying event, which they all were at the time, any qualifying event, the tournament director was then granted an exemption to play as well. So I believe that's how we saw someone like Rick Rothstein play a number of years ago. he was given an exemption. He had run a national tour event, which was at that time a qualifier for the USDGC. So I'd have to go out to check usdgc.com, and I'm sure exemptions and rules and regulations are all listed there as to what I'll be the first to admit, I haven't been there in 2 years in any capacity. I'm definitely not there as a competitor. I have not checked up on all of their qualifying procedures as in what's in play here for 2019. But like you said, they've been fluid throughout the years.
Are you technically still the state coordinator right now?
That's a good question.
Because
I might not be.
For those of you that don't know, Terry, after 20 years, finally decided not to.
I didn't put my name on the ballot.
He did not put his name on the ballot for the state coordinator, and another local here in Milwaukee area got the state coordinator position. I was going to say, as your going out request, can you get me into USDGC?
No.
Oh,
absolutely not.
Are you sure? Because I threw really far the other day.
Yeah, I don't know. You threw it out of bounds.
No.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't.
I don't believe you.
No, Monday, I went out because my family was gone and I was here all weekend doing MVP. I went out to Abendschein, and there's 2 long holes out at Abendschein. I forget what numbers they are, like 12 and 13 or something. And one of them, the first one is 540 feet. And I took out a TI Undertaker and I laid into it. And I was like, oh, that's a pretty good drive. Like, pretty far throw. And then I took out my Trespass, and it was a really nice wind. I laid into it, and I think I've maybe thrown as far as I've possibly ever thrown. I immediately went, holy cow, I got a hold of that. Pulled out U-Disc, had U-Disc check it out, and it was it was like 450 feet. So I truly believe U-Disc now. And to be fair, it
how far downhill?
It's not. None of those holes are really downhill.
I don't believe you.
The Undertaker went about 370 feet, and it was a nice easy pitch up on that first really long one. And the second long one, these people in front of me, this couple that were making out in front of me on like every hole.
Hence you were behind them watching.
Yeah, I was like taking my time.
Yeah, you were.
They let me play through it, and the guy was like, "Oh, nice drive." I was like, "Wow, yeah, it was even for me." I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna throw another one." I laid into it, and I threw it about 3 feet off the ground, and it went probably about 300 feet. I was like, I threw it hard, but I didn't throw. He's like, "Oh, that's a pretty good throw." I'm like, "No, it's not. Don't patronize me, mister. Go continue making out with your little blonde girlfriend. I'm gonna just play through here, thank you." And
you got a problem with blonde girlfriends now?
Well, when I met my wife, she was blonde. Not blonde anymore.
She's not your girlfriend anymore either.
You don't know that. I mean, I guess you kind of do. You were at my wedding, but you don't know I don't have a blonde girlfriend.
All right, I have officially reached out to Zach yet again. I don't know if he was not taking my.
You think he was not serious wanting to get on, and he was just bothering Germ?
Or taking my offer seriously, but we would love to have him. It'd be great to catch up with Zach. All right, I'm going to take a few things off the board. Oh, I also got an awkward text. Jeff Spring, our Pro Tour director, said that he needs moderator. We should be giving him moderator access. And I said, that's awkward. I'm not sure we should have him moderating our channel.
Well, I can moderate the Pro Tour channel, so I feel it's only right that he can moderate ours.
All right. Jason asks, are you going to be at the USDGC this year? That's a great question. I'll tell you, when I was at Worlds a few weeks ago, I ran into the USDGC tournament director, event coordinator and director in Jonathan Poole, and I just relayed to him. I said, hey, if there's any way I can be involved in the USDGC, I would love to be. I'm not sure where your wants or needs are or how that works. It's one of those classic situations that we've arrived at in the spirit of disc golf or at these big tournaments, which is the USDGC may or may not, and this is just throwing it out there, they may or may not have a budget to have additional media coverage in addition to whatever they already have planned. And at the same time, if I want to be there, they don't necessarily want or would encourage or maybe even allow for another manufacturer to support, to outwardly support media that I may come and produce.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a legitimate, I'll say, challenge for most of our media companies across the board. If you're going to a large scale event that is underwritten by one particular manufacturer and you want to do media coverage, it may or may not be welcome to show up and then promote another manufacturer. And understandably so, in that Innova and all the sponsors that have put in now decades of blood, sweat, and tears and equity, actual cash equity and otherwise, into an event, and then have somebody else potentially benefit from it. That's a continued conversation, or is dilemma the word? Situation?
I don't know if it's a dilemma, but it's definitely a situation.
Consideration.
It's an ongoing consideration.
It's an ongoing consideration
for all media.
For all media. So, what I'm really trying to say is, I don't know. Those are some of those situations that we're all wading through, I think, on all of our levels.
You need to show up, like Kurt says, and just have a tailgate group on hole 17 like they had on 8. At,
yeah, but outside of just being a fan, I need to also monetize.
No, I know.
And I'm not sure, unless I ran the 17 holes.
that just take money from them. Like,
yeah.
Just you bring the chairs and charge people to sit. So you can monetize that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
That's awesome.
So, Jason, I don't know, is what I'm trying to say. I would like to be there. As I expressed to Jonathan, I am a fan of the game. I'm an enthusiast. I'm do whatever I can to help push everything forward. And we'll see if money or logistics or sponsorship, all those types of considerations, all come into play, and that may or may not provide a position for me or for the next guy. Someone else who gets underwritten by another manufacturer, same idea. We'll see it. It makes things tough.
Well, Kurt will buy you a beer if you go.
All right, Kurt, I like the sound of that. Dan Harbeck, thank you for the super chat, and asks, T-Dog, you are a star. Are you in the Wisconsin Disc Golf Hall of Fame yet?
Me? No, I am not in the Wisconsin Disc Golf Hall of Fame. Terry is in the Wisconsin Disc Golf Hall of Fame, deservedly so. I feel you've run countless events, although I'm sure someone could count them if you really wanted to, and you've been playing and putting in courses and things like that. And I don't think I deserve to be in the Wisconsin Hall of Fame at this point yet.
Wow, he calls you a mastermind, though.
Well, I am.
Thanks, Dan.
I am, but
is the mastermind? Wow,
I am
now
that's true.
I don't know if that's a pretty big stretch.
No, if it's one thing, I think that Terry and I we bounce a lot of ideas off each other, and it's almost if you saw like our phone records, it's almost embarrassing. And thankfully we have other methods of communication now. Just today, swear to God, Terry sent me a message with like a screenshot of something.
I actually emailed it.
That's what I'm getting to. Like, I put my phone down. I was at work, and suddenly I was like, I want to read that message. I couldn't find it. I looked at my Facebook message. I looked at my text messages. I looked
Voxer.
At Voxer. I looked at like all this stuff. And I'm like, where the? He emailed it to me. Like,
I did. You want to know why?
And I just couldn't figure out why, because you and I go back and forth 1,000 times, and with every little thing, we're constantly, if it's not work and Smashbox related, if it's not slightly gossip related, if it's not media related, or even tournament related, sometimes we're just always going back and forth. But why did you email me?
I emailed you because I had received some information today, and rather than copying and pasting the actual text, I wanted the context and the order in which it was.
Sure.
And I hate how Google
stacks it.
Threads and stacks.
You can unthread it.
Yeah,
There's
whatever. But I knew with the way that it was, the size of it, so to speak, that I knew if I gave you a screenshot and I sent it to your Facebook, that it may not pop up well in your Facebook chat. And so I was really trying to help you out, which is why I actually sent it via email. And you and I don't.
No, we don't email a ton unless it's like really truly professional related. Like, oh, we have a proposal we need to go back and forth with. Here's an email. Otherwise, there's like 1,000, and we have 1,000 different ways to communicate. I couldn't find it, and email was the last place I looked. But going back to the original conversation, I I don't feel like I have at this point done enough to warrant to be in the Wisconsin Disc Golf Hall of Fame. I have a grand total of like 3 wins under my belt total. And my one open win wasn't even in this state. It was in Illinois. We've got I was part of a team that, the Northwoods team for the team event. I'm not a course designer. I've helped out Terry running events. The Ed Holtz famously, which we kind of took over at one point. But if we continue doing this and promote disc golf, I don't even know if that's even worthy of. It's kind of a funny thought. Like, if you do something big nationally, if SmashBoxx takes off and we excel the sport, do you deserve to be in the Wisconsin Disc Golf Hall of Fame, or would you be in the Disc Golf Hall of Fame? Or, I've always said, like, obviously our Wisconsin Disc Golf Hall of Famers don't deserve to be in the Disc Golf Hall of Fame, but do you get the state Hall of Fame because you're big nationally just by default, even if technically I've never done a lot for this particular state? I feel like, does one lift the other? And even right now, like I said, SmashBoxx we haven't been around long enough. We haven't done enough, I feel. I mean, we're putting down a really good base for the future of disc golf, but if we never get beyond this, I'm fine doing what I'm doing for what I'm doing it.
Yeah, and I think Hall of Fame questions are always kind of touchy for any sport, for any organization. I always love to see or hear what those qualifications are, or what is predicated on anyone being involved or being nominated and being accepted. This all goes definitely to pointing to 2 gentlemen that Johnny V and I both absolutely love and adore and have looked up to for many, many years. John Turlap, along with Johnny Rumble, were both inducted into the Wisconsin Disc Golf Hall of Fame.
This was my year
this weekend.
John Turlap, John Rumble.
Oh, yeah.
If I didn't get in this year, I'm never getting in.
Yeah, there's no more Johnnies allowed. That's for sure. So both of them inducted. Turlap, I want to say, maybe his PDGA number is like 7981, and Johnny Rumble's is 2540. So to put that into a little bit of perspective, that they've been around for a long time. They've there's just such tremendous assets to Wisconsin disc golf. Both of them, not necessarily known for traveling a ton. Johnny Rumble now has traveled internationally with me a couple of times now in the last few years, but that is definitely recent. When I look at the span of his 30-plus year career in disc golf, he's only been doing the international traveling really 2 or 3 times in the last couple of years, but he's been very successful when he does go do it. Just 2 all-around stand-up gentlemen. Dan Harbeck, who had asked here on the board, actually knows both of those gentlemen and has known them for 20-plus years, as have we. So very cool. Congratulations to them. As we missed even those ceremonies, again, not being at the Northwoods Open this last weekend in northern Wisconsin. That was part of it. And I believe John Turlap wasn't in attendance. He was he was doing some work, and I think he was in China doing work this weekend, so he wasn't there to be there himself.
In 1997, I fixed a printer for Am Worlds. It was one of my first introductions to disc golf, and I saved Am Worlds.
You did.
Which is more or less, nobody knew me. I was just friends with Terry, basically. I showed up to the Paper Valley Hotel, and they were having a printer problem, and I fixed the printer and saved Am Worlds.
Yeah, and you know who else was at that Am Worlds?
Nate Doss.
Double G.
You.
Me. Steady Ed Hedrick.
Yep.
Johnny Rumble, as we just mentioned as well, along with a couple other Barry Schultz was there on staff. Mm-hmm. Those were the good old days.
So, if I'm not in the Wisconsin Hall of Fame for that, I don't know what.
Fixing a printer and all right, let's get back to the board. I'm not holding my breath anymore on Zach Melton. I've reached out a couple times. He calls 2 or 3 times during the show.
He's just, he literally just wanted to bother Germ, I think. We'll get Zach.
Which I'm good with.
Me too. We'll get Zach on soon because honestly, it's he's kind of overdue. We haven't. He's overdue for a win, but
yeah. He is defending. He's actually the champion from last year's Nantucket Open. So I think he is certainly due. All right. Disc Golf Rich. Oh, John Ryan's reading off stats and details. That must be, I'm guessing that's you, Johnny.
Yes.
$2,168.
Apparently.
I'm guessing that must be. Ryan also says, let it be noted that the MP40 win included T-Dog. Oh, yeah, for your flex
the
start.
flex start at GBO 2 years ago or whatever.
Yes.
I did take that one
That
down.
is.
I mean, I'm racking them up at this point. Just racking them up.
He made up his own trophy for that one. It's great.
I was thinking just now about this. For the Disc Golf Hall of Fame in general, for someone like me to get in, Smashbox would have to do well as I think like Skip Ace. Like that would have to turn into something as well.
When can we start betting on that?
Legally, I don't know. I've got lots of ideas. But right now none of them are legal. So I'm just saying. There's a lot of little things I think that could add up to a big thing in far off in the future. But at this point, I'm still young, man. I'm only 41, so I got another good 3 years in me.
I don't know about that. Last week we were talking about the conversation. Someone had mentioned saying, why isn't Scott Stokely in the Disc Golf Hall of Fame? Obviously, lots of years, whether he started the petition or not. Steve Rico has been talked about for eventually or now being in the Disc Golf Hall of Fame. One could make the conversation along with his brother, Bamba.
Stokely should be in right now, hands down. I think there's no... I don't believe there's any question about it for me. I think he has earned his way in. He was one of the very early touring pros, like one of the earliest, one of the first sets of double series, traveling double series, DVDs, instructional videos, like just distance records. Like that guy belongs in the Hall of Fame, period. Stevie, the Rico brothers, they'll get in. I don't necessarily think they need to be in now. They've got so many more years ahead of them. Not that Stokely doesn't. Sorry. Stokely just had his 50th birthday.
Yeah. Almost exactly 10 years older than Steve Rico is. Yep.
But I feel like Stokely is still, unless things change, still kind of at the tail end of his career. Like, he might pop up now and again, but he kind of has that mentality where I feel like he'll always be part of the scene, but as far as playing goes, he might pop up now and again, play a couple events, win a Masters or an MP50 or whatever he's going to do. But he doesn't feel like he's really integral to the community right now. Stevie and the Rico brothers, they're still so much part of our community. With legacy and Stevie playing, that I feel like just if I were to be able to speak frankly to Stevie, I'd be like, chill the F out, dude. You'll get in. And I think you just wait a few years. Like, let legacy build, let your legacy build. And then Stevie and Bamba will go in together. And I think it only makes sense, maybe wait 10 years till they're 50 and then have a nice thing about it. But you don't have to be in. There's very few people I feel that really deserve to be in before they're 40.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, if they told me next year they were putting Paul Macbeth in, I'd be like, awesome, go for it. He's one of those exceptions. Like, he's in there. And there's, as far as players go, he's probably the only one right now I really would look at it and go, he's a
active player.
Active, like, MPO player. Like, Stevie, I feel like he's more of a Masters player. Like, there's probably quite a few Masters that deserve to be in there. And Stevie's in there, but none of them are really pressing. And I think that Stevie will be in with Bamba, and they will just do it in the future. I'm in no hurry to see them getting. I'm sure they are. I'm sure they're anticipating it, and it's probably hard to sit back and watch all these other people get in, whether or not you feel you're more qualified or not. I get it, but to know that I think Stevie is a surefire for it, I guess I would not be in any hurry. But then again, I'm sitting at it from this angle, way different than he's looking at it.
Well, yeah, I don't really have anything else to follow that up. No. I agree. I think it's inevitable. It's just a matter of timing for him or them. And I would say like just like kind of like what you're saying, like what's the hurry? And we all know, I would hope we'd all think or know that you're not necessarily playing or contributing with necessarily that goal or aspiration in mind anyway. So let it be. It's going to happen. I know some people have started, little firestorms over it, but or it may have been Steve himself, but it will happen.
How many Facebook accounts does he have?
What I will say is one thing that was really cool this last weekend, being at the MVP Open, was running into Hall of Famers. I think of someone like Stan McDaniel, who, when we talk about Charlotte disc golf, as we have quite a bit tonight, he is a huge driving force and/or the godfather of the Charlotte disc golf scene. And first of all, he had some very kind words for us, which we appreciate. Thank you, Stan.
Real quick, Paige Pierce would be the other one I would say is a surefire Hall of Famer right now.
Yeah.
I said Paul Macbeth, but Paige as well. They're both 5-time.
Absolutely.
I think if someone told me next year Paige was going in, I wouldn't question it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't question it.
So I saw Stan, and what was really unique about this weekend's MVP in the sense that all of our masters, not all of them, a ton of really good masters are here and prepping for the Tim Selinsky Masters going on this week. So having someone like Stan McDaniel walk around the property, or having even, another not as fortunate situation, but Patrick Brown at some point withdrew from the MVP Open and said, hey, I'm more concerned about the Tim Selinsky Masters coming up in a few days. And he, withdrew from it. And then Barry Schultz was in town playing the MVP, which we haven't really seen him at too much in the last few years, the last decade or so, playing in here at Maple Hill. But to know that he was here and then is going to play in the Masters event next week, like, it was just really cool. There was a little bit of that. I saw Harold Hampton, who I haven't seen in many years. He was out here with that in mind, the fact that he's playing Selinsky. So some of these guys, some of these godfathers and pioneers and front runners of the sport that helped shape and mold where we are today were on site or present. Some of them played, some of them didn't. But having them still at Maple Hill the few days of this event before leading into their event next week, I just thought was really awesome. And so great to see them, great to catch up with the few that I could. I loved it. And I think about so many of those people being just that, the ambassadors, the pioneers, the godfathers of disc golf as we have it today. So, all right. Disc Golf Nerd, I think, continues to release a bunch of stuff. Check him out on YouTube. Says he hasn't found his perfect filming locale yet, but he's got a new spot that he's going to try soon as he's working on some new videos for disc golf reviews and releases.
I should probably get our Patreon stuff ready.
Johnny's going to get the Patreon stuff ready while I read a few more things off the board. We start to kind of wrap things up. Kenny says, is there some kind of cutoff to get in the Hall of Fame like the NFL? You have to be retired for 5 years. Kenny, there is not any specific criteria in terms of those requirements, and I think I can say that with certainty, knowing someone like Des Redding, who was put in last year or 2 years ago, and then Jay Redding put in last year. They're both active players. They're now primarily playing in Masters Age events, but not always. But they're active players. And then, of course, you had Ken Climo put in many, many years ago. And most of our players have been put in while they've still been active players. So if there is some official cutoff, I don't know what that would be. But I would certainly say not from a retirement perspective, because very few.
And real quickly explain, like, the Disc Golf Hall of Fame is not run by the PDGA.
That is correct. That is something.
It is located at the IDGC, but it truly kind of has nothing to do with the PDGA. The PDGA doesn't make decisions.
Let me read a few things even right off it. So if you go to pdga.com/DGHOF, it says in 1993, after 2 decades of organized disc golf, the time was right to create it. We honor select few men and women that dedicated so much of their lives to the development and the growth of the sport, following the guidelines that so many other local ones have in place. It was then developed. It's independent organization dedicated to the promotion of disc golf and its pioneers and players. founded in 1993 by Levon Wolf, and is what is now known as the Ed Hedrick Memorial Museum, as you just mentioned, which is at the International Disc Golf Center. The first round of inductees was in 1993, forever immortalizing their significance and importance to the game. The first member was honored was, of course, the founder of Disc Golf, Steady Ed 001, in the first class. And, okay, so here's what it says. It says, Hall of Fame inductees shall be judged to fit the following standards. I apologize if you don't find this interesting. That I know I haven't read this in many years. It says favorable standing and honorable reputation within the disc golf community.
Yeesh. Awkward, Terry.
Made significant contributions to the sport of disc golf through development, promotion, leadership, and or sportsmanship that merit our recognition, remembrance, and respect. Gave back to the sport with a passion that transcends personal gain, and dedicated at least 15 years of service to the disc golf community. Each year, inductees are selected by the membership and introduced to the Disc Golf Hall of Fame induction ceremony that takes place during the week of the Hall of Fame Classic at the International Disc Golf Center. So I hope that is helpful to everyone out there.
Arguably, you could say they almost have to be a PDGA member for 15 years. Like, I know it doesn't specifically state that, but when you say, I could see someone looking at that and going, all right, you weren't a PDGA member for the first 3 years. You were helping out locally. You know, it just feels like that's kind of maybe a good standard to set. Be a PDGA member for at least 15 years and be doing all that stuff. I mean, you read that any way you want, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
Sure. Well, that's how it's listed. I also put a post, or I put a link posting directly to it for any of those that are following along in care.
I mean, think about our modern, like just the last 5 years. Think of someone like Matt and Josh from UDisc. You know,
obviously,
like, someone I think of things like that. Some of the big website creators, like like a Steve Gans, who has dedicated so much of his time to disc golf behind the scenes that half the people don't know him, but has developed so much of the PDGA website. I think of all these, and that's just my nature, these technological advances that we've had, that these people, you know, whether or not they were doing it to earn a living, you know, take that for what it is, but that they've promoted and pushed the sport that far. I mean, I don't believe Jonathan Poole is in the Disc Golf Hall of Fame, and he's run the USDGC technically for 20 years.
21, yep.
21 years. I mean, that's a guy that arguably you could make the argument that says that guy's put a lot of time and effort into disc golf. You know, it's been through under the Innova umbrella, but you could make he's run a major for as long as there's been majors practically. And you know, that talk about promoting the sport. I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things that there's so much leeway in it that you would have that. I'm curious to see how the next 15 years will go with the type of people that will be getting in, whether it's going to be less and less players, or we'll say top tier players and more promoters, or if it's still going to be kind of a 50-50 split, or, I mean, I guess kind of unfortunately, with Macbeth dominating the way he has, you could make the argument that there's not a lot of players that deserve to be in because of him. You know, there's so many players that are great that right now they would, if you put them back 15 years, they would crush the competition.
Sure.
Because just the skill sets have changed. But guess what? Mr. Paul Macbeth is so much, I don't say so much better, but has performed at such a high level above them that that he could be suppressing technically that type of future for these people. Like, you know, Nate Doss, I think he's a Hall of Famer. 3 world championships. Mm-hmm. You know, Val as well, 4 with her. They're not in yet. I mean, is Ricky with 2? Is he a world? You know, if let's say he never wins another one, does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame when you have a 3-time and a 4-time? And I mean, those are questions we're going to have to ask ourselves in the future as these guys who we grow up with, and you know, even though we're grown up, but that other people are growing up with, they're heroes. do they deserve to be in? You know, your Sarah Hokum, your Katrina Allen with 1 world championship. You know, Birgitta has 1 world championship. Does she deserve to be in? Just because you win a world championship, I don't necessarily think that qualifies you for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, clearly. And is it?
And I know that doesn't say it, but if you kind of feel like, well, gosh, they're a world champion, how come they're not in our Hall of Fame? But
yeah,
I don't necessarily think for me, that's not a qualification.
Yeah, I think it's great, and it clearly says something about their passion and their drive and their commitment. But yeah, that alone, I certainly I do not think guarantees you anything. And it's funny to think about if you're going on these by as written, just letter of the law, or straight black and white. You think back to like Paul McBeth, his first events were listed as 2005.
Yeah.
And he played a junior, I think, in the junior in the advanced division or something like that. He hasn't even technically been a PDGA member for 15 years. And Paige Pierce, similar, her first PDGA event is listed as 2006. And again, we're getting into like minor details that really are of no significant concern. I have no doubt in my mind that both of them ultimately will be. Is there a hurry? Does it matter when that happens at this point for either of them when they're all too guaranteed?
Yeah, they're prime.
But it is funny to think that neither of them really have even hit that 15-year PDGA member threshold as of yet. So crazy to see.
Yep.
As I'm looking back at their stats.
Here's a really good question.
Uh-oh. You've got one.
At this point, right now, if you had to make a choice, yes or no, does Steve Dodge make it into the Disc Golf Hall of Fame? Right now, like the Pro Tour has just been handed over. He's run Maple Hill or MSDGC or MVP, whatever he wants to call it this particular year. Has he contributed enough to the sport? I mean, or extrapolate it. Let's say the Pro Tour runs just fine for the next 10 to 15 years. Does he deserve to be in it because he started it? I mean, I kind of feel like at this point he does.
Yeah. Well,
like he's contributed so much to the expansion of our sport and promoting, and he's been around disc golf forever. Not forever, but for a long time. So that's one of those questions that, again, you're going to have to look at in the future, and we're going to have to start making these tough decisions as far as who can, who does and doesn't.
Well, the good news is we don't have to make these tough decisions at all.
Well, no, we don't. Well, I mean, you don't know that. If let's play pretend someday they put you in the Hall of Fame.
Oh no.
Just
okay. So I'm looking back at Steve Dodge, which is really unique. And this is, I apologize. This is kind of maybe just
we're going off a little bit.
Yeah,
here.
going off, and this is a little bit random, and we can move on. But it's interesting to see that Steve Dodge's number is 22042, which means he signed up for the PDGA well after I did, well after you did. It says member since 2003. I signed up in, 95, 96, somewhere in that neighborhood. You were a few years after that. But then yet it dates back to him playing in an event in 1988 when he was not a member, which I think is really interesting. So it has him for information for when he was pre-member, because 88, clearly he was not a PDGA member. In fact, he didn't become one, like I said, till 2003. But yet he also has things linked to him and tied to him when playing in some of those other events in 88, 89, 90, and 2000. So, anyway, kind of a random side note. But I know a lot of people always think like, who cares about PDGA numbers? And I can't say it enough.
You care a lot about it.
I care because they are a timestamp. That, to me, is what is the most significant part of it.
It's becoming less and less true, though. I mean, just with as fast as we're...
I think you've said that before, and I think I've disagreed with you before.
I don't think I've ever said that before, but I think with as fast as we're starting to accelerate in PDGA numbers, those timestamps are becoming more and more blurred. Like, you couldn't tell... I guarantee you couldn't tell when someone 80,000 versus 90,000.
No, not right now.
But even I don't think you'll ever be able to tell in the future because we're accelerating so fast. Now, you can tell, you clearly know the difference between 10,000 and 14,000.
Yeah, because that used to be months or years.
Because
in terms of the difference. Now they're
10,
doing
7, 3, 8. I'm 14324.
Yeah.
And you signed up 3 years before me.
Yeah, and now they're
so for you that's a thing.
They're going through 3,000 numbers in a busy weekend or in a busy month.
In a busy month.
And we used to go through 3,000 numbers and it'd take years.
In more and more in the future, it's people aren't going to be able to have that type of distinguishing. It's going to be hopefully, oh, you're under 100,000. That's cool. When did you sign up? Was it 2014 or was it 2019 or was it, and then, oh, you're over 100,000? Yeah, I signed up in 2022. Those numbers are becoming so compressed that it's not going to matter nearly as much anymore. It's going to be so difficult to determine that no one's going to care what your number is. Like I said, again, we used to care about pre-10,000. Now, gosh, who cares? Like people look at your 10,738 and my 14324 like it's right next to each other. Like, and you and I both know that there's a few years in between there, but what's a few years 20 years ago? And there's just that type of, there's different cutoffs these days.
Well, here's a trivia question that's going to earn you nothing other than a big hug and a pat on the back. Someone tell me what either the person or the number was that had the highest PDGA number that cashed this last weekend at the Maple Hill event. Highest PDGA number that cashed. So in some regard, you would say that that's the one of the newest players. Maybe not, but the highest PDGA number that cashed this last weekend at the Maple Hill event on the MPO side. Man, it's so crazy to look at these numbers. It does actually kind of freak me out a little bit.
Yeah. And again, right now is the big thing before 50. Is it 50K or is it 100K that people care about? And like, oh, cool, I got a number under 100,000. I mean, it seems still pretty fresh, but.
Yeah. Thomas Gilbert would be a great guess. He was. Wait, what was my question?
Highest PDGA number that cashed.
The highest I guess my question was dumb, so we'll move on. Thomas Gilbert is PDGA number 85850. He cashed for $401, and the highest PDGA number.
Ronald Harkey nails it.
He's on top of it
with Brandon Brown.
Congratulations, 87673.
Thank you, Big Butt Bill, for buying your friends. We're here for you. We're cheap. And
Brandon signed up in 2016. Real quick story before you got our Patreon people ready?
I have our Patreon ready. I was just about to get into it.
I'm going to real quickly, Big Putt Bill Sherman, what an amazing human, not just because he super chatted us a few moments ago, but Cassie and Tosh are in the U.S. Some of you know them from Australia. They're here visiting. They are taking every bit of the U.S. in for the 4 or so weeks that they're here. They arrived, they've played Golden Gate, they've been to Disneyland in Anaheim. They are, today they played in the San Jose area, they've played De La Viega. They just landed, I'm not going to give their exact locations, but they've just landed in Las Vegas. They're going to take in Vegas for a few days. They're going to a Yankees-Boston game, Yankees-Red Sox game.
So cool.
They're going to be at Pyramids. They're may or may not find themselves in Vermont. U.S. Women's, they are taking in every bit of the U.S. that they need to be, including 2 nights in Vegas. That's one of my favorites. They're going to be in New York City. They're going to a Broadway play.
Okay.
They're doing everything.
How does this tie with Big Putt Bill?
Big Putt Bill was their official tour guide this morning. They were met for a 7:30 a.m. round in California before they flew to Vegas this afternoon. So I want to thank Bill on the show. I know they thanked him, and thank you, Bill, for being a stand-up human and an all-around amazing ambassador for disc golf and for showing them around so that they had a good quality human to go out and play some golf with today. So, and then here you are supporting us on SmashBox. What a sweetheart. So
You are.
all right, we've got Patreon giveaway to do.
Let's do
Johnny.
our Patreon giveaway. As many of you know, we do a Patreon giveaway every single week in the after show, and that is if you want to be qualified to enter into our giveaway. You can do that automatically by going to patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV and signing up for as little as $1 a month, otherwise known as the price of a good beer at an airport. You know, it's $12. You know.
Okay, I was thinking $1.
I mean, no, if I could dollar airport beers, I'd be there every night because I only live a few miles from the airport. Yeah, for as little as that, you can help support SmashBoxx TV. It's really the only way that we're supported financially. So it's very much appreciated, everybody that helps. Patreon supporters get things like a yearly collectible disc, T-shirts and shirts type stuff. And I've actually just reached out to Miles today after, obviously, the holidays and said, hey, Miles, I'm looking at a little bit nicer shirt for this giveaway. So what do you got for me? And so he threw me a couple options, and I've picked one. I'm just waiting on just 2 or 3 people as far as some of our new $10 a month subscribers or supporters is a better way to put it, for their sizes. Once I get their sizes, we'll get that shipped out. Shout out to Miles at Paragon for doing that. So again, if you want to do that, that's SmashBoxx TV on Patreon. So patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. I think I've said that quite enough. Let's get into our giveaway. Terry, you obviously have something, because you always have something.
We just came from the MVP Open. We're going to continue to give them a little bit of love, and they support the event. They support the tour. They've supported me
And us.
and us here. So MVP, thank you. Steve and crew over there at MVP. It was awesome seeing Amanda and Sarah and Elaine, all who we regularly see out there. So thank you to MVP. You've got a Tear Bear disc coming. And I just mentioned 3 awesome humans, so the number will be 3 tonight.
All right, the number is 3. So let's put up our random.org. We have 205 people that are able to participate. I did grab the extra names from the people that signed up on the website, so thank you very much. So the very first number is 63, 122, and our third and winning number is 199. Holy moly, wait, at the end of your names of scroll. Webb Warren. Holy moly, Webb.
Warren won like 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, Webb. You cheater. Not really a cheater, but congratulations, Webb. You won again. Wow. Webb Warren. Yeah, they're all sorted alphabetically, so when we hit 199, the W, there's a good chance. It was almost Wayne Harpster. It was almost Wes Kepi.
Oh, now you're really rubbing it in.
Yeah, but it was Webb Warren. So congratulations, Webb. We'll get that out to you. I think Terry probably has your mailing address probably in his favorites at this point. So congratulations, Webb. Thank you very, very, very much for
Looked
being
like Big
a
Putt
solid
Bill somehow
supporter.
retracted, but then came back again and yet offered up the super chat. So thank you, Bill. Bubba,
That would be fun. Get a shout out and then pull it back. Like, no.
I know. I kept saying, "Damn it, give us the money back." I already shouted you out.
Too late. You shouted us out. You're financially obligated.
Bubba G. Dupree gives us a super chat. Thank you, Bubba. We appreciate it. It says, "Do you have any JK AVRs?" Oh, I got them.
He does.
I do have a few that are from an event a couple years ago that I had custom stamped up that I think look pretty cool. If you are in need of one or more, I do have some for sale.
I think we're doing polos for this giveaway.
Oh my gosh.
This shirt. So it's a little bit more expensive than we're used to doing, but I asked Miles for a nice shirt, so we're going to get a nice polo shirt this time. So it's something you can actually support while you play disc golf. You can support SmashBoxx. So much appreciated.
All right. In another news, our good friend of the show, Mo, has released another podcast, The Inside Line. Go check it out. Hopefully you're downloading those and listening. And he does like research, and he does real interviews and like thinks about things, everything we do not do ahead of time here. So please go out. Mo has graciously assisted in both live and post-production for the last few weekends. Me, SmashBoxx, the Disc Golf Guy, Central Coast. He's works with Jomez, and then he puts out a podcast. He's a very, very dedicated and diligent working human. And Mo, we appreciate all the love and the support. And please, again, check out his podcast, The Inside Line. Talks a little bit about wooded golf. Of course, just being at Iron Hill, places like that, places like Charlotte. I think he got a few quotes and such from Big Germ. and just really good, insightful stuff that he puts together, and he works very hard on it. And he's got ESPN credits behind his name, so he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he does. And he was our catch cameraman this past weekend, so if you had any problems with it, it's his fault. No, Mo did a pretty good job, honestly. We threw him some new equipment at him that he's not used to using, but ultimately he got used to it, and I thought he did a really good job. He was the one, actually, that we sent off to follow Simon.
Yes.
So, if for all that extra following and footage, you have Mo to thank. So when you see him, I want you to sneak up behind him and just give him a big hug for us.
He loves them. Preferably if you have a cat with you. He's a big fan of cats.
Oh, does he?
Actually,
That's right. He is. He really
loves
cats. So
if you've got a cat to provide, when we were rooming the other last weekend, he crawled into bed relatively early. He's an early sleeper, and he had a book. He's a smart guy. He reads books, and he said, "Oh, the only thing that could make this better right now is if my cat was here with me." And I was sad for a moment.
I know. Well,
I couldn't help him.
You're kind of a cat guy too, though.
Oh yeah, no, I am. I love them. I don't have one. I wish I could, but I don't.
Used to.
And Mo, I hope you're home with your cat.
All
We'll
right,
see you on the
we
road.
are out of here. We will see everybody live next Tuesday, and then we will see everybody live at the GMC.
Yeah, there's a slight chance, or maybe Johnny doesn't know it. Either I may not be around next Tuesday, or we may have to switch days. My travel's a little crazy with going to Norway, but we'll talk about that.
I can get a new host.
And if anything, it
like a new permanent
yeah,
host.
that would be great. So either way, you'll see or hear something from SmashBoxx.
So nice.
Thank you guys for joining us. That's been podcast episode 263's After Show. Thank you to our Patreon subscribers. We love you the most. Our second favorite people are our super chatters. The rest of you are all right. We look forward to seeing and hearing from you guys as the week moves on. We'll catch up with you next Tuesday. For Terry, Johnny, we'll see you next week when you step inside the SmashBoxx.